Good evening. This is the Park and Recreation Commission meeting on May 14th, 2020. This is a special meeting, and the meeting is called to order now at 7:02 p.m. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, justice for all.
Justice for all. Thank you. Before we get into the roll call, I just wanted to make sure that this is the special meeting and it's all teleconference, and for the public who are seeing it, this is based on the new, in accordance with the Governor Newsom's executive order, and all the details of what will be conducted, how it will be conducted, all of them are outlined in the agenda item as the first part of it. Please refer to it. One of the key things we wanted to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask any questions. There is an email which you can send it out to still. It's called parkscommission@cupertino.org. If you could send that email out, we should be able to use that out as part of the process when we go through the meeting. And again, we are doing it first time, at least this commission. So if anything we miss out and we really do it, please bear with us. We are learning along with you, like any other public in this situation. So thanks for being there. So with that, hello, Whitney, would you please do a roll call?
Chair Kumarapan?
Yeah. Yep.
Present. Vice Chair Stanek?
Here.
Commissioner Shu?
Here.
Commissioner Tombe?
Here.
Commissioner Bigor?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. And as a
I'm sorry, Chair Gopal.
yes,
If I could just also include that one of our guests tonight, watching in as a panelist, is Joanne McGreeny. Joanne was recently appointed to be the Parks and Recreation Director, and she is coming to us. She will begin her job here on June 1st. Joanne is coming to us from the city of San Bruno, where she has been for the past couple of years. And we went through a full interview process that was pretty close to nationwide, and found somebody nearby who excelled through the interview process and also has extremely high ratings and liking from all of the people that she currently works with. And they gave us some amazing references on her. So we're very happy to have her joining us tonight. She hasn't started yet, so this is just a freebie for us. But Joe, thank you very much and congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you so much, Randy. Welcome on board again, Joan. This is the first time you're going to see how we're going to really perform. And yeah, we will, and this is the best time. You cannot ask for the best time to witness how each commissioners, and including us, are going to really run the commission meeting. So please, you will witness it, but yeah, you can beat us a little later. But thank you. Welcome aboard. Really happy to hear your credentials, and absolutely awesome. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Excellent. So with that, let's go on to the agenda items. I think the first one we have is an approval of minutes, and the first one is the based on the special meeting we had on February 6th. On it, we have the draft minutes already posted on it. I'd like to make sure that everybody reviewed it. If you have any comments and stuff, I think you can still raise your hand, and I think Whitney will help us to make sure that you make your comments here.
So I'll go ahead and move to approve both minutes as is.
Okay, both the minutes, awesome. Somebody second that? Any other commissioner?
I second it.
Excellent. And I think for the A and nay, I think maybe we will go for specifically. They need to say that, right? So can you really help us? Everybody gets
Yes, so Chair Kumarapan,
Okay, for me, yay.
Vice Chair Stanek,
Yay.
Commissioner Shu,
Yeah.
Commissioner Bigor,
Yes.
and Commissioner Tombe.
Yes.
Excellent. So all approved, I think. Thank you, Commissioner Isha, to make the thing easy for both the minutes. Awesome. So both minutes got approved. That's great. So I don't think that we have any postponements. And I think we can jump onto oral communications, definitely for the public. And the way in which it works is that the attendees will be on the attendees list. I think the public, right, Whitney? Do we have anyone there waiting to talk to us?
Looks like we just got one attendee in. And so you might want to repeat the rules if they would like to speak, members of the public.
Yes, speak public, and especially if the items are not in the agenda item, if you want to talk about anything, and you have 3 minutes, and we will try to time it out, and I think we can, and I have a clock here too, and we will time it out. And if they want to speak up, and I think Whitney, please let them in so that we can go through it.
Yes, we have one attendee right now. So Jennifer, if you would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, this would be the time to do that. And you would want to use the raise your hand function, which would allow us to unmute you and speak if that's something you'd like to do. We have a phone call
Okay.
just came in as well.
Okay, so if Jennifer is planning to talk for any items on the agenda, then we will come back to her. And if no one else there in the waiting room, I think we can move on written communications. Did we receive any written communications so far? Whitney, if you could really highlight if anything is there, other than the one listed out, I think, which I would like to, in the meantime, people might have sent it to the email list we outlined. And if there's anything else, I would like to know what that is.
Yeah, the only ones that we've received are the ones that are listed in the agenda.
Okay, so no other written communications. Excellent. So this particular written communication, we will be reading it to it. At least can you highlight that? Or I don't know how the process. Typically, we say that we are written commission on this particular subject. What's the process here? Do we need to read out the entire email? I do have that one.
These ones don't have to be because they've been published. If we had received anything between 5 o'clock and now, then we would have read that aloud. But we haven't received anything. Okay,
at least we can acknowledge that all these emails, most of them, I see that it's all about Dola, Jollyman Dola, the feedback, and some other requests coming from the residents. It's great to see that one. Definitely, we received it, and it's part of it. And if any action needed, definitely we will look into it. Wanted to make sure we call it out. And I hope the follow-up will be responding to it, right? Maybe Randy or you can talk about it, how we plan to do this one, because they called it out and there is a communication and we will be responding to them, right?
Yes, we will take care of that.
Awesome, excellent. So if that is done, then I think we will go to the next part of the agenda item, which is, give me 1 second, since I opened that one, it really went down far below. So we will be moving on to the old business, and the first one, definitely a lot of them are today, is the staff report, and especially for public who are listening in or who will be watching us, please watch, and we want to hit the number of people watching, viewed it going up. No, I think it's really important matters here. It's the Park and Rec Commission has done a lot of important work for the situation where everybody is in a different way and finding a novel way to run this meetings. But at the same time, we want to make sure that every part of the community is engaged. So for that, the Park and Rec Commission, for the staff, they have done a lot of work. And I just wanted to make sure that let's go through this one and the staff report. The first one is about the update on Rancho Ricardo Recreation Park District. I think there's a staff report. Earlier, we had a different way to invite members to do active part discussions, but given the current situation, we made it as a staff report to provide the update as of now. So I think the director, Andy, you will be going through this report, or who will be presenting that?
No, I would be happy to, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. And I'll just do a speck of background information for Joanne and anybody else that might be listening that might be unfamiliar with the Rancho Rinconada Recreation Park District item on the agenda. Rancho Rinconada is a special district that is located approximately 99% of which within the city limits of Cupertino. There are a couple of parcels within the city of San Jose. And the item before us, excuse me, is the LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission of Santa Clara County, has asked us if we are interested in obtaining and bringing the district into the city. The district currently has is primarily an aquatic center. There is a clubhouse. There are locker rooms there. There's a room for rental within the district. And the idea is should the district be dissolved and absorbed by the city? Should it remain as a separate district? There was a third option, which essentially left the district intact as a whole, and yet made the city council the board of directors for the district. And this is the very short version of the description of it. When the item was brought to the city council originally, the city council asked the commission to look into the matter and to weigh in on only in the first two options: to leave the district as a whole, separate than the city, or to dissolve the district and to be absorbed in total by the city. And those are the two options that the commission is being asked to make a recommendation on. At some point, the item would then go back to the city council and back to the LAFCO commission. Unfortunately, well, the progress we made to date, staff noticed the entire Rancho area and started the process of a survey. There was one commission meeting where the public had a lot of opportunities for public comment on the matter. At that point, the survey was not completed, and we did not have any comments yet from the public meeting held by LAFCO. Unfortunately, for this and 1,000 other reasons, the pandemic struck right at that time, and we've pretty much halted the process so far. In speaking to the chairperson before this meeting, we felt as though that the public is not having a real opportunity to come before the commission tonight. And so this item is on here not as an action item, but only as an update of where we are in the process. The coronavirus has also really changed the world and is going to take a lot more examination of the decision should the city look at absorbing the district for participation reasons, for financial reasons. At this point, the district is shut down, had to shut down the aquatics programs, which is probably close to 90% or a little bit over 90% of the programming that goes on there. It's going to be a long time before we are allowed to handle any programs in the aquatics field. I will discuss it more in depth later on as another item, but even the city has had to already cancel its aquatics programs for the summertime, as have most jurisdictions throughout the Bay Area. So at this point, it would be very hard to assess the financial impacts of absorbing the district or not. This is just an update item. If members of the public wish to speak, If commissioners wish to ask questions about the process, they may do so. I would just caution the commissioners not to express any opinions at this time as to whether to absorb the district or not, because we have not had the full vetting of the process through the public in terms of the full survey results, in terms of more public presence before the commission. And so we, both the chairperson and myself, felt as though we aren't giving enough robust feedback yet, and don't have that opportunity during the shelter in place orders. So again, this is here as an update item only, and I would turn it back to the commission chair for one, any clarifying comments from the commissioners, and then two, you may want to see if any of the attendees at tonight's meeting are interested in speaking on this topic.
Thank you, Director Randy. So first, let's look at the attendees, the public. If anyone is there, want to make any comment or want to ask any questions on related to it. I think, again, questions we may not be able to answer things because, as Director Randy updated it, this is an update. We are not putting it for an active discussions at this point because we haven't been able to make much progress, including the subcommittee we formed, and because we cannot do it real action to go and discuss and collect the feedback. So, hello, Whitney. If anyone from the attendees wanted to speak, I can get the timer started too.
We do have one caller. She's calling, or they're calling in from their phone with the last digits 4172. Unmute them, and they can talk. Would you like me to set the timer, Chair?
Yes, please. Yeah, and also it'll be great whoever the caller is will introduce with their name because it comes with a phone number. So it'll be we appreciate you please introduce, and then we can start the timer, please.
Hello.
So I have just.
Hello, this is Jennifer Griffin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can, please.
Hello? Yes, hello, this is Jennifer Griffin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jennifer.
Okay,
Please.
yes. Good evening, Park and Rec Commission. I hope you all are doing well. You look great. You look like the Brady Bunch on the screen. Yes, thank you for the update. Yes, the pandemic has been quite something to try to deal with, but we're moving. As usual, everyone looks like they're doing okay. I have lived in the Rancho Rinconada neighborhood since the mid-'80s. I was in an apartment, but I've owned my home since 1995. My great-aunt lived in the neighborhood since 1950. I used to go to her home on Barnhart. I would prefer, I actually attended all the LAFCO meetings. I made comments in the LAFCO report, and I have been coming to your meetings about this. I was at the last meeting. And I would prefer that we remain the status quo and that the district remained intact as it is now. It is a great asset for my neighborhood. I believe that it provides a lot of assets to the surrounding area. My husband actually learned to swim there as a child, and he grew up in the Monte Vista area. Anyway, also there's an issue of the $1 million assets that are in the Rancho Rinconada district, and it is a lot of people in the neighborhood do not want those assets transferred to the city unless there is compensation. I would prefer that the assets stayed in the Rancho Rinconada Swim Club. My husband is a big proponent of this also, as other people I have discussed with. Anyway, I understand that this has to be, there's really nothing that can go on for a while because of the pandemic, but I appreciate you all staying on top of this. And I will say I prefer the status quo. The district has worked out well where it is. It's a great asset, and I am very glad to have it in the neighborhood. And I think I do believe that the board is doing an excellent job. I attend their meetings regularly. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for taking time to come on online and talking about it. Thank you. Hello, Whitney. Do we have any other attendees or public waiting to make any comments?
We don't have any other attendees with their hands raised, just the commissioners.
Okay, if that is the case, let's go for the clarifications questions. And I think since you raised the hand, I'm sure that when you can allow one at a time, please, that'll be great. And I'll let you to choose the order because based on the one they find. Go ahead, please.
Commissioner Begor, I believe you are unmuted.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
This question really is for Randy. I just need a clarification. Is there a timeline specified by either the city council or anything to make a decision? Is there any kind of a event that will occur, any contract renewal or anything where we have to make this decision?
It's a great question. There is no timeline. This can be something that could be done in a matter of months or could be done in a matter of years. The idea is doing it properly. There is a district election coming up this November when they would be looking to fill the seats. But this can happen at any point. And even after the commission weighs in and it then goes to the city council, even if the city council makes a determination to absorb the district, that could still take months or years to happen. It would then go back to LAFCO, and LAFCO would then work through the process of having a more of a formal vote of the residents within the district. But there's no rush on the item. We just need to do it properly, and I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Others?
Commissioner Shu, you are unmuted.
And I have some question regarding the survey. So Randy mentioned the survey hasn't completed. Does that mean the survey already posted or mailed out, but we haven't finished, haven't met the deadline of the survey, or the survey hasn't started? Yeah, I want to know.
Another very good question. The survey did go out, and we do have many of the results, but excuse me, in speaking to the chairperson, we both agree that when this item kind of restarts and we're going to come back and be looking at having more in-depth discussions with the commissioners, that we would go back with the survey and bring it back to the residents again to give them further opportunity to bring it in. So we would give you updates on the results as they come in.
Oh, so is that an online survey or some mail-in survey?
Actually, I'm going to let Branton, do you want to discuss the details of the survey? Branton.
I haven't got anything.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So good evening. So for the survey was done online through Open City Hall. So it's basically the online survey platform that the city's been using to conduct surveys. That's pretty much the survey.
There was a mailer, well, a flyer that was hand dropped at each address within the district, and that gave the instructions about how to get into the link of the survey, so people could then respond.
I'm checking the Open City Hall website. So you mean in the closed topics, there's one regarding the Rancho Refinata, the special district? Sorry, I didn't find it.
Okay.
So when was that survey?
Branton, I don't think the survey's still up there, is it?
Correct, it is not. I could figure out the close date, but it closed probably about a month and a half ago or so. It was open for, I believe, 3 to 4 weeks.
but it will be brought back up, and we will renotice the public that they can add to the results we've already received when we start to have further discussions about this item.
Okay. Does that answer, Commissioner Shu, your question?
Yeah, I think, yeah, because there's only 2 pages. One is open topic because it's closed. It's not in the open topics. And the other is a closed one with the result post. Yeah, but not this one looks like, yeah, it's still in process. Yeah, I understand. Okay.
Okay, so I do have a question on that, but I'll come back with once other commissioners have been allowed to. So thanks, Commissioner Shu, and I think, hello, Whitney, please. Go to the next.
Commissioner Tombe, your hand is raised and you're unmuted.
Yeah, so I did want to, I had some clarifying questions. If I remember correctly from the last presentation, there was no, essentially there is no oversight body that the board is responsible to. They don't actually report into the county, they don't report into us, so there's no real oversight body with any of the assets that are going on and the financial things that are happening in that area, correct?
That is correct. It is a separate elected body, just like the city does not report to the county or to the state. They are a separate special district, but they are not overseen directly. The LAFCO is an agency, and every county has a LAFCO, Local Area Agency Formation Commission, and their job is to just do periodic reports on how they are doing, but they do not oversee the district specifically.
Okay, so there's no oversight body for the board, they just report essentially to themselves. Have we done any kind of, or are we planning to do any overview or due diligence into the financials? Because I believe that was one of the main points, as was written in many of the written communications, the financial elements. Have we looked into that at all?
Good question. Yes, we have looked into a lot of the financials. They were very open about showing us their books, where the revenues are coming from, where the expenditures are going. One of the members of the public mentioned $1 million. That is in their capital funds, and if they were to be absorbed by the city, the intent, at least a few months ago, was that those would be going towards some of the necessary capital improvements that are going on there. The locker rooms are not fully ADA accessible. There's some other improvements that need to be made for the city to absorb the district. But the big question now is, what is going to happen with the finances of the district at all? They still have some expenses, they still have some maintenance, with essentially zero revenue coming in. We know we have not checked on their finances within the last month, but we do know that the impacts of the city and the recreation department, and we're assuming that it's going to be extremely similar, if not even more critical, for Rancho Rinconada District. So as we get closer, that's one of the key factors that we're going to have to carefully examine.
And then the final question I have is, have we done any kind of programmatic review? So there were, I'm just recalling a lot of this from the past meeting, so excuse me if my memory is not quite where it should be. But have we done any kind of review on, there was a claim, there were many claims made, and I don't know what's true and what's not. So one of the claims that was being made was that a private swim organization was taking up majority of the weekend time. And so there was no space for community members to actually go swim. Those times were blocked off, and I know that our master plan shows that there's a lot of need for that. So I wanted to know if we've done any review on that. Have we done any kind of review on board member behavior because of the lawn signs ridiculing members of that community? Those things are very, cause me a lot of anxiety. So I'm just curious. And if we haven't, I would love to just make sure we're doing some kind of programmatic overview as well as the financial overview as well.
Yeah, you raise excellent points. Those are things that we have done or done a good examination, maybe not a fully thorough job of the programmatic end of it. We did see some areas where maybe there can be some little tweaks to the programming. The issue of the outside consultant taking over pool time is not necessarily something that is improper. It was a decision that was made by the board. The city contracts out a lot of recreation programs that we have. Rancho Rinconada chose to contract out to this third party a lot of the programs that they offer. The Rancho board and the operators then assess the pool time, just the same as city staff assesses how much time goes to certain classes within Quinlan or any of our other facilities, what program space we have, how is that allotted? And that was a decision that was then made correctly or incorrectly by the Rancho board. And some people might say that, well, I didn't get time. Other people might say, no, it was very appropriate. So we will be able to show you that later on as we go more in depth into it, what times were available, and the commission might make an assessment of what would happen if it was under city control. Would it look the same or would it look different? When we operate Blackberry Farm program, we, with the help of the commission, decide how much should be for lessons, how much should be for lap swim, how much should be for whatever special events that happen there. And the same that happens with the board. So we will be bringing that back to you. We have not looked at the, as I think you said, the behavior of the board members. That is outside of our scope of examination. We would be more interested in looking at what would happen if the city took over the programming, the financing, etc., than any suspected behavior of board members.
Okay, thank you. I just, am thinking about our ethics, the ethics that we put together for our city and our city staff. So I would be, I'd be curious to see how that would extend to the people who are serving. And if they're doing great, then it doesn't matter. Actually, I did have one more question. Are we working exclusively with the board on this, or are we also incorporating the people who either were once on the board or are bringing up these concerns?
At this point, we have been working with the general manager to get the information we've needed. We have not approached the board separately.
Okay.
But did have their own meeting and voted that their wish was to remain as a separate entity. But we have not reached out to them for their specific input.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Denise, do you have any?
We have two more commissioners with their hands raised. I believe Commissioner Begor was first, so I'll unmute her. And then.
So this is really a follow-on to Commissioner Zhu's question. With regard to the survey in the March meeting, the commissioner meeting that we had, there were some suggestions made to changes that needed to be made to the survey. I'm not sure if the survey had included those when it went out. If not, can we make sure that when it goes out again, that those get included?
I think what we can do is we can talk to the commission committee before it goes back out and survey past them and see if we want to tweak it at all. I think that's an excellent suggestion. We'll give you a second look before it goes out. We're not under a time constraint to go back out for that second survey.
Okay, so there were absolutely no changes made to the survey the last time it went out. It just went out as it was supposed to go.
No, after the first meeting, it went out with the changes that was made by the commission.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But if there's, I'm sorry, I might have misunderstood, but if there's additional changes that you would like to make, we will have an opportunity to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Quick hat tip to Randy, because I remember coming back to grab something I forgot. He was up very late making those changes. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Randy. Excellent. You said when you
Commissioner Vice Chair Stanek, unmute you. Okay, you're good to speak.
Okay, yeah. I guess one of the changes that we had recommended was how often had the respondent used the facility in the last year, and that question got on there. But I have to say that the choices that they had were not very specific. It wasn't like 1 to 3, 5 to 7, 12, or it was sometimes, occasionally. I mean, it was very. It could be open to interpretation. So I was a little disappointed in the way those responses, those multiple choices were, because I don't know that we can really tell what people meant when they say occasionally, sometimes, often. People can interpret those things. But so that's a comment. One of the questions I had for the LAFCO representative at the last meeting was about this assumption that the property tax allocation would be transferred to the city. And I believe her response was, gee, I don't know, that's an assumption. I guess we'll have to look into that more carefully and get a definitive answer. So I guess my question is, have we heard back from LAFCO?
So it's a great question. The taxes is a huge part of it. And if I can just do a quick explanation of that situation so everybody has a more full or more recent understanding of the situation. The residents of the district pay taxes just as residents of Cupertino pay taxes. And some of the taxes go to the county, some go to the city, some go to the school district, some go to a community college district, et cetera, as we go through, or hospital district, or broken up all those ways. In the case of the Rancho Rinconada residents, a portion also goes to Rancho Rinconada district. They do not pay additional taxes. It's just that a separate slice of the pie is carved out and given to the Rancho Rinconada district. Therefore, the schools, the city, the county, everybody else takes a little bit less of the pie, because some of the residents of that area, some of the taxes from those residents is going to these other areas. In one of the points that is in the report talks about the taxes, and there is still an assumption that all of the tax revenue would come to the city to support the pool and the center, et cetera. Now, during LAFCO's process, they would reach out to all of the other districts. And part of their assumption is that some of the districts would not be objecting. It is possible that the school district might say, no, we want a larger share of the pie. The city shouldn't take it all. They should be broken out the same as other Cupertino residents is. It would be one of the conditions, or it might be one of the conditions of acceptance by the city council. And there can be many conditions that the city puts on it. If the city wanted to absorb the district, they could say, we will absorb it if all of the tax revenue comes to support the activity going on at the district. But at this point, it's an assumption, because until LAFCO has its formal process, we can't go to the county and the school and the hospital district and all those other entities and say, are you okay and are you signing off that you will receive the same percentage of the taxes from those residents? And that's why we cannot be 100% sure, but LAFCO feels confident that those monies would be transferred to the city. I hope that helps.
So we can't get a definitive answer from LAFCO before we make a recommendation to the city?
It would be a condition, on your recommendation. You could make a recommendation that the city absorb it if all of the taxes are then transferred to the city. It could be a condition that the city council makes back to LAFCO. but LAFCO is not going to reach out to all of the other taxing agencies if the city says, you know what, we don't want it in the first place. We want to leave it alone. So LAFCO is not going to be reaching out to them. They have not done that yet.
So, okay, maybe I think, Ernie, what we'll do is that we might be getting back into the discussion. Maybe we'll go deep into it if you could explain, so that because people will have more questions on top of it. If that's okay, Vice Chair, Janet, clarification questions, we can finish it when we move on to the discussions. Would that help?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple of quick questions, then I think we will be open up for the discussions. But before that, hello, Whitney, if you could, I think I still see the hand raised for the attendees. If you could, I think that's about Jennifer, so you can lower the hand, I believe. Because
I did lower earlier and then they removed it, so I'm not sure if you want to review the policies on.
I see. Maybe I think at this point, which we allowed once, and I don't think it will be again on this particular topic, but I thought we will, but it's okay. So I do have two quick questions to Director Andy. So number one, I think you mentioned about people already responded. You know how many so far responded to that survey before we took it?
I apologize. I do not have the results right in front of me. I believe it was somewhere around 80 something replies, and the majority of them, but not all of them, were members of the Rancho Rinconada district. I think the number was closer to about 65 that were actually members of the district. There were also a few people that signed in and gave the responses more than once. And then there were also a few times where different members of the same household replied. And the commission will need to weigh in on that. My personal opinion is that we should be focusing on the responses from the residents of the district. And my rationale for that is we did not open this up to all Cupertino residents. We sent this specifically because we were interested in what the residents of the district, what their opinion was. And whether the link was then shared with friends of theirs that lived outside. Some lived outside of the city entirely. And so we will need to filter through to see which ones we think are the most important responses.
Okay, I think we will discuss as part of the discussion. Second one is that we said we are planning to send it again, the survey. Is there any timeline we are looking at, or we are waiting for the situation to calm down so that the previous process of posting it to everyone has to happen? Is that the blocking issue, or when do we want to?
Yeah, the intent was to wait till things calm down a little bit. The swim activity is, I believe, in stage 4 or phase 4 of this, and we're anticipating this being a long way off before aquatics of any type is allowed back in.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions I have. Maybe I think we should be able to, now if there's no more questions on it, we should move on to the discussions, because I know a lot more further points are coming from commissioners. I can see it now, because at the time I cannot see left and right on stage. Now I see everyone on the screen. So it's great that people wanted to talk about it. So let's open it up for a discussion. And here also, I think it will be very difficult for all of us to jump into. I think you please raise your hand too, and I think we will allow, because that's easy. Otherwise, we'll be overlapping on each other. So, hello, Whitney. I would request to go ahead and open up. Okay.
Commissioner Tombe, you're unmuted.
Great. Oh, I'm still muted?
Oh, you're unmuted.
Okay, great. So I actually have, sorry, the only things I have are questions really, because Director Schwartz had mentioned that we should not form opinions until we have more answers. So what I would love to see is, in response to the surveys, kind of two separate tables essentially of responses from people who use the facility versus responses of people who don't. One of the things that's important for me to see is usage and how many people from that area know. And I think if there's fewer people responding to it from outside, or not from outside, excuse me, that are not already involved but still live in the area, that would be of interest to me as well. And the other question I had was more, again, financial, which is the proportion of property taxes that are going from the residents into this program or into this area, the district. Is the expenses that are needed to repair and bring it up to code more than or less than the general tax or the taxes that are set aside for this?
I'm not sure I understood the question entirely.
So like if say they get $100,000, I'm quoting low numbers, but they get $100,000 per cycle from their taxes, but the expenses to rebuild everything are $250, or do they have a lot of reserves, or do they not have a lot of reserves?
So the $1 million is essentially what's in reserve, and the amount that comes in through taxation helps to subsidize not only the maintenance of the facility, but also the programming. So their main revenue sources are 1, through the taxes, and then 2, through the program registrations, and then 3, through the rentals of the inside facilities.
So are they cash flow positive or not?
At this point, they claim to be cash flow positive.
Okay, so they are making money. Okay.
And at this point, we've done our public works department did an initial assessment, not an in-depth assessment of the needs of the facility. As I mentioned, there's ADA to the locker room would be the largest, and we're not sure how we would tackle that. But the shower areas, the changing areas would need to be brought into compliance with ADA. And at this point, we are under the assumption that the $1 million would cover that, but Public Works is going to have to do a much more in-depth study to determine if that is true or not.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you. I think I see all commissioners want to talk about. Please go ahead, Whitney. It's all your discussion. You wanted to let them in, it's up to you. No, I'm just kidding. So please, go ahead.
Next on the list, I have Vice Chair Stanek.
Excellent.
Okay, yeah, I guess Randy made a comment about, the revenues. And so I'm guessing that because they can't do any programming right now, their programming revenues are probably going to zero right now. But the good news for them is this property tax allocation comes in from properties, and that's like $500,000 a year. And so, their expenses, because they're not probably paying for programming, they have to pay for their staff. And I don't know what they're doing about, keeping their staff or laying people off or whatever, but they do have this $500,000 coming in from the property tax allocation annually. So that is whether they provide anything or not. So I just wanted to make that comment. That was all.
Thank you. I think the next commissioner in line.
Next is Commissioner Shu.
Hi. So when Randy talk about most of people feel the survey, they're from Rancho Reconata, this area. So if we post the survey on Open City Hall on the public webpage, how can we make sure most of the people who fill the survey are from Rancho Reconata area? Yeah, I didn't get that clear.
So one of the questions on there is where do you live? And we were, I'm assuming people were were fairly honest about it, giving the address, and we asked, do you live within the district? And people said yes, and many people said no. Just going off that, we realized that, how did those people get the link in the first place? And also as a reminder to people that you do not have to be a resident of the Rancho Rinconada district to participate in the programs. So it might have been a San Jose resident or Santa Clara resident or somebody who was participating in one of the programs, or maybe their child was participating in one of the programs, and they then said, well, I want to weigh in on this topic. So the link was, the survey results were not exclusive to Rancho Rinconada district residents.
Okay, thank you. And
Thank you.
I also want to, I think Vice Chair Stanek asked a good question about, because they stopped the running program, are they still having the same expense as before, paying all the stuff? Yeah, I agree, it's a good question. So no further questions.
Thank you. I think the next one is the
Commissioner Begor.
There we go. It takes me a minute to unmute. I tend to talk without it. Along the lines of everything the other commissioners had said, I had a couple of questions really on the financial aspect itself. Can we get, we know what the revenues, at least what the revenues were for 2018, 2019, based on programming and the taxes. So can we just get an idea? I saw something in the report about 2018, but I'm not sure if the 19 numbers were also there. Is it possible for us to just get some kind of a report on what the current revenues would be and what the expenses are, just for our understanding? And secondly, in this analysis that we're doing, are we as a city spending more money to figure out, whatever for the survey, I don't know what's involved. And as a newbie, I'm asking this question. So what's involved in doing all of this analysis? Is there any, money being spent on our part, even to get this information? Like, for example, a report that LAFCO writes, is LAFCO paying for that, or is the city paying to get that report? Any comments you can give on that, Director?
Sure. Good questions. And I do not think that they had finished the information on 2019 when LAFCO had done the report. So I do not believe, I think we will be able to get that information for you. As I said, the general manager was very forthcoming in opening up the books to us, so we will be able to get that in the next few months. LAFCO did commission the report, paid for the report. The city has not paid for that at all. The survey that went out was done by staff, and there was no additional cost to the city to send it out. The communications department, which Branton is a member of, even though he's assigned to the Parks and Recreation Department, he was working with the communications director to pull the survey together. And then they've shared the results with me, or the results to date with me. And we will continue to do that and update that. So, but we'll be able to get you both the revenues and expenses for 2019 before we move forward with a recommendation.
Okay, and then one last follow-up question is that if, let's say, we don't know how the decision will be, but let's say the decision ultimately comes down to the city absorbing this district. We'll talk about the taxes part, but I'm assuming then that we cannot use their facilities without the ADA compliance. Is that a correct understanding on my part?
That's a really interesting question. I don't know if we would be able to make accommodations. I might have to go over there and look again. There are no lockers at the facility. When you go over there, There's the swimming pool. There is a changing room with a shower or with showers. One of the things that struck me as both a former participant of similar programs or as a parent, where am I putting my clothes and my valuables while I'm swimming? That would have to be upgraded.
The public is using it right now as is though, and they are aware of these limitations and they're still using that.
And for the city, I think what we could say is there are no locker facilities until the renovation is complete. So that it'd be fair to everybody. It's just a pool and then you go home on your own. That might be a possible way to run it while construction's going on.
Okay.
Interesting question. Thank you.
Great. And okay, I can see one more hand raised. Go ahead.
If I recall correctly, LAFCO said that there was no particular reason that this area hadn't already become a part of the city, that it was its independent special district. I remember the guy saying that. I think one of the questions I have is, are we, outside of just the people in that district, do we know what percentage of, I recall this was in the notes, but I don't remember. What is the percentage of use of people inside the district versus outside the district for the area?
I do not remember the percentage, but we can get it to you for your next meeting.
Awesome, thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Again, almost all the commissioners, that may be a good part being in the chat, so you don't have to talk anything because all the commissioners brought the valid point, we just listen. So thank you. It's amazing to hear all the comments and questions. So at this point, only one thing I want to make a comment to Director. We did appoint a subcommittee from our commission to do a little more research on it. Maybe I'd like to see that maybe we will work on the agenda item for the next meeting. It'll be good to have a lot of these questions answered through the committee as well, along working with the staff. I mean, you, Director, or maybe by the time Director John may be on board. So it'll be good to have a collective report. I think that way it'll make everything easy. Otherwise, we'll be going through on the same question. So it'll be great. With that, I'm going to propose, given that it's already spent an hour on it, but I see a lot of great updates for the community. It's very, very important for the community to really provide what the Park and Rec staff and the city is doing it to them at the situation, which is much more important. So I'm proposing, please, if you have any objection, please raise your hand. If not, I plan to really wanted to move to the new business, item number 8 and 9, 10, and we'll come back. Assuming that we don't hit the midnight, then we will come back to the old business of the item 5, 6, 7. Otherwise, we'll be dozing off. So if it is okay, then I would really propose to move on to the new business, because those are the real important things we really wanted to. The rest of them are important too, but I really wanted to see that those programs, what we are trying to do right now and what we are doing already, what we plan to do for the community and this situation. I'm sure that the community members and the citizens would love to hear from us. If that is okay, then I propose to move on to the new business item number 8, which is the update on the impacts to park and recreation programs. Staff report, is it like Director Randy, you're going to provide that report, or Assistant Director Christine, I think. I'm not sure who's going to give that update, please.
Okay, did we want to give a quick update on number 5, or we're skipping 5, 6, 7 for right now?
Yeah, so at this point, I'm passing 5, 6, 7 item. I'm just directly moving on to the new business item number 8. Because those are typical data. And then once I finish 8, 9, 10, and I would like to come back based on the time limits, we might go to 5, 6, 7, or if it's going beyond some time limits, we might postpone it. But because the new business is so critical for the community to listen in, that's the reason I'm going to move to the item number 8 directly.
We'd be happy to do that. As the commissioners are aware, we've had to pretty much shut down all of the programs that the city has annually operated because of the coronavirus. At this point, all activities through the end of summer with 100 persons or more have been canceled. We had to cancel the 4th of July activities, a lot of festivals, a lot of programs that we've had. There is potential to still run some type of summer camp. What we are allowed to do at this point is to run a summer camp program as long as it is for no more than 12 participants, and those participants cannot sign up for more than one camp in a 4-week period. They have to be the same 12 participants throughout the camp. We cannot have them mix and match. So if a couple went on vacation, we can't let a few extras in. They would have to have the same staff assigned to them throughout the time. We cannot have, as an example, what we might do is have an arts and crafts specialist come into a day camp, and then that arts and crafts specialist would go to a different day camp. That would not be allowed because, I guess, potential cross-contamination. The same cohort of 12 plus the staff would have to stay together throughout the duration of the camp. The participants would have to be children of essential workers, and the definition of essential workers continues to change. It at one point is more of doctors, nurses, first line responders of the pandemic. Now it can be opened up to children of restaurant workers or other businesses that were permitted to be open. So we are working on how can we have a camp program, and that's something that staff is working on as of today and will be going on into next week. We will offer whatever we can. This past Monday, we have opened up the golf course with a lot of restrictions. We no longer have benches out at the golf course. You do not go into the pro shop. We're not going to rent out clubs. We're not going to give out a golf cart. We've removed the rakes from the sand trap. Anything that you can touch, ball washers have been removed. If your ball lands in the sand trap, if anybody's a golfer, you get to take it out of the sand trap without a penalty. So your score might be better than it's ever been in your life. The hole has been plugged up. The cup is essentially upside down. So your putt will just, if you hit the cup and it bounces off, it counts as in. And this is pretty much the industry practice throughout the US right now as we've been looking at different golf course operations. But your putt that would have just barely missed a few months ago now counts as in. So again, your score is going to be better than it's ever been. We did open up the tennis courts at the Sports Center this past Monday. The public tennis courts were opened up the week prior. You still need to be a member of the Sports Center to use those courts. And per the county ordinance, county orders, you're only allowed to play with members of your same household. So if you had a normal doubles game of tennis going on, that is not permitted, only singles only, and with somebody that's from your same household. Part of it is cross-contamination factor of tennis balls or other equipment, or the benches have been pulled to the side and things like that. So we're trying as best as possible to allow the public some type of recreational activity in those areas while still complying with the county ordinance. one of the most successful things we've done is we've entered the world of virtual recreation. I almost want to say VR, but I won't do that. That would be a bad joke. But virtual recreation has been doing very well. There's a lot of exercise classes that are going on. As an example, some of the exercise classes are averaging over 100 participants per class, and they're doing very well. We've had preschool, and all these are going over Zoom with the staff's help. But we wanted to make sure we had opportunities for the preschoolers to get together and see the teachers and see the other participants, and the teachers can lead small activities, and that's been successful. At the senior center, we've had a couple of Zooms that have been opened up to all of the members of the senior center, with one of our case managers leading the exercise, so people can talk about their frustrations or their fears or whatever, and see each other and realize that they are part of a larger community, not just alone in their home. And that's been very successful. Members of the senior center staff have been reaching out. A couple of times we've sent, excuse me, we sent emails to all of the members of the senior center. There's many that we do not have an email address for, so we made direct phone calls to them to check on them, to see how they're doing. And at that point, we were also asking, how often would you like us to make regular phone calls or regular check-ins to you? And I believe it's around 80 seniors right now that we're making regular phone calls, just to make sure that they still stay connected with the community. And it can be as simple as a 5-minute conversation or much longer. And our staff's been doing a great job of reaching out to them. We've also done a lot of food delivery, both to seniors and to the schools. When seniors need, we've been able to deliver food or other supplies to them, because if they haven't been able to go out or don't want to go out for safety reasons, staff has stepped up and been helping out with that. One of the school programs, some of the restaurants in town have done a tremendous job of donating food, and then we've been delivering that to the elementary and to the high school district. It started off with only 1,100 meals, lunches that were delivered, and then one Friday it shot up to 2,200 lunches that were being delivered. And that takes a lot of willpower, a lot of people power to deliver, because the food needs to be delivered within 2 hours for safety reasons, and to get those all from the restaurants to the schools and set to go. So Park and Rec staff did a tremendous job of that. And I want to thank Public Works staff, because when it got to 2,200, they stepped in and they sure helped out with that. So that's been a very successful program. The school delivery of the lunches is scheduled to end in the middle of June, when school would have ended, but the lunch program to the seniors will continue. And that is something that the city's been doing, but is also now part of a state program, where we are looking to see if we should be moving more into the state program with the county or the city of San Jose. But regardless, we will be delivering meals to the seniors as needed. I'm going to let Christine Hannell, our Assistant Parks and Recreation Director, talk for a little bit. She has been spearheading one of the programs also. Christine, if you're right there, we see you. Okay, good.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay. If you
Hi,
want to talk about
everyone.
your program.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. The program that Randy is referring to is Cupertino Cares, which hopefully you have seen posted on the city website, on Facebook. I see some of you nodding with a big smile on your face, so I'm happy to see that. We've had a group of our recreation coordinators, three of them in particular, along with Branton, who has pushed out all the social media, but Molly James, Jeff Ordway, and Kelsey Hayes have been working on this along with myself. But I have to give them credit. And what they've done, they've come up with a number of initiatives in an effort to keep the community engaged. And so far, we are getting a great response. There was the Chalk the Walk. There are recipes that are being posted now on Wednesdays. There have been recurrent thank you letters campaign to essential workers. And there are templates that have been provided to the community so families can write letters of thanks. They're divided to local fire departments and hospitals and whatnot. There has also been, let's see, Chalk the Walk. Did I mention that? I think I did, which was very popular, and people in the community were able to draw messages of inspiration and hope, or just creative with artwork. And they were asked to post photos. So we had a lot of really nice photos to share on Facebook and our other social media sites. So that has been really fun. They're going to be working this week on doing a movie. Every week they try to roll out a different activity. So there's going to be a movie and dinner night for families. And let's see, in addition, we've also partnered with Cupertino Union School District. So some of the themes at the beginning of posting rainbows or hearts in the neighborhoods were also being done by the Cupertino Union School District as well. So it started out as a nice partnership with the school district and then evolved into some other activities. We're getting a great response. I think that's it.
Thank you. Awesome. First of all, I think before I know there is an attendee there waiting for engagement communication on that part. I would like to open. Before that, I simply salute, and I've seen it in action. And it's heartwarming and moving how Park and Rec staff reacted so far. It's unbelievably recognized by, I spoke to many other people to work with seniors on others, and amazing. Thank you. I'm using this one. I'm trying to really reach out to every one of those staff and reaching out, and especially in this isolation on seniors, especially on the seniors where they don't have people to talk to, and if they are alone and the things we move, it's amazing. I don't have any words to describe. So thank you for all of them to do that. So with that, I think this is one of the reports really I'm looking forward to it, and I'm glad that the entire people are seeing it, and if not, they're seeing it live, they will be going and looking into it and say how they can use it. I'm sure that there's a next item is going to talk about. In the meantime, let's open it up for any verbal communications, starting from the attendees, from the public. I'm sure that I see one person. Hello, Whitney, if you could check it out. If the person wants to talk on this one, please.
Yeah, we have caller with the number ending in 0802. We have now unmuted you if you would like to talk, and I will set the timer for the 3 minutes.
Hello. Please introduce yourself, your name. That'll be awesome. We would love to hear your name as well.
Great, thank you very much. Hi, this is Darcy Paul. I'm calling just as a member of the public and as a parent with kids that are signed up for the summer programs, not just in Cupertino, but in one of our adjoining cities as well. And the adjoining city did reach out to the users, and I wanted to see if we're doing the same thing on a customer service basis to let the people who have signed up for summer camps know what our policy is going to be with regard to attendance as well as prospective refunds if people do not qualify to send their kids. And my other question is, how are we going to determine who qualifies to participate in those summer camps with regard to what the definition of an essential worker is? Which definition are we going off of there so that people can have some kind of certainty as regards that? Thanks very much. Bye.
Great. Thank you, Darcy. Really appreciate taking time. And I think we will, these questions are like maybe as part of the discussion at the time I would request Randy and Kirsten. I think we can answer it because it's important questions, but the same time, I'd like to go through the process of just any clarification questions from commissioners first. And then definitely we will move on to discussion because it's a very critical one. Each one of us will have some questions and comments to make to improve the service. And absolutely, I would love to. So let's go on a clarifications question from commissioners. I would like to start with that. And then definitely we'll get into the discussion. So, or if there's no clarification questions, we can directly jump onto discussions where we can also make the question into it.
And Commissioner Begor had her hand raised, so she's now unmuted.
Thank you for those wonderful programs. I actually want to have a little shout out to the Cupertino Cares. That was really well received. A lot of people talked about it. My question really is when you said where you're trying to get the same group so that there's no cross-contamination. So are we actually going to have to tell everybody who's participating that they are as a group and either they register for all subsequent programs or they're not allowed to get into the program? Is that how it's going to be, or did I not understand this correctly?
Any misunderstanding might be on the part of the legislation on this one. It is confusing, and different agencies have looked at it in terms of, well, does it really mean this or does it really mean that? But what the law says is that it needs to be a stable camp, that it has to be the same participants with the same leaders, and there cannot be people registering for more than one camp within a 4-week period. We're not allowed to run, well, let me take, let's say if we ran a math camp, you would not be able to run a math camp or enter your child into a math camp and a science camp within the same 4-week period. It would be one or another, and that would be the only one that you could sign up for. And the 12 children that are in that program would have to be the same 12 children throughout the entire duration of that camp.
Simpler than what I was trying to imagine what this was being. So it's a little bit, makes a little bit more sense. So they're allowed every 4 weeks to sign up for a program. So it's not too complicated.
Correct.
But in that duration of the program, they either, they stick together. If they decide to drop out, too bad. Nobody else can take that spot. Is
correct. We would not be able to put anybody else within that program, and the leaders that are in that program could not work any other programs at the same time either.
So okay, that kind of makes a little bit more sense. With regard to the tennis courts, are all tennis courts open, like the one in Monte Vista, De Anza, or is it only the Cupertino one?
All tennis courts in Santa Clara County are under the same orders.
I see. Okay. All right.
The only difference is at the sports center, you still should be a sports center member to participate on those courts.
The last one is, is just for my information, really, the School for Food program where, it typically closes in June. It's my understanding that sometimes they have some continued education. They have some classes that people can sign up for. Don't the children get fed in those programs, or is that something that the families have known to always take care of themselves in some way? Do we know the answer to that?
I do not know the answer to it, but that would be up to the school district. If they wish to reach out to the restaurants and to staff, we would be happy to help with the delivery. They may, I don't know if they're planning on having any summer programs this year or not, but if they do, and the restaurants are willing to donate the food, we would be happy to help with the delivery.
Follow on with the delivery, okay, are you using any volunteers or is it just the city staff?
It is city staff. There are some people that have volunteered to help, but as of now, we're able to accommodate with just city staff. If anybody has volunteered, we have directed them to the county because there is a county program where they're accepting volunteers. for the ones we're doing, we did not need them.
Okay. Thank you. So I think Commissioner Nisha is next, I believe.
You're unmuted.
There we go. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
I just wanted to say fantastic. I mean, I know that the rainbows have also gone to stuffed animals in the window and things like that. It's absolutely fantastic. These programs are amazing. My sister-in-law and my 4-year-old niece were with us for about a month, and it was great to have activities to do with them as well, including chalk and things like that. So I just wanted to say a big thank you. I know the staff has been doing so much and also been fielding a lot from some community members who've been frustrated. But you know, keep doing what you're doing. The one thing that I would want to flag is that there was a request, because our workouts have been some of our fitness classes have been so popular that they be recorded. I actually think that is these classes are really cool, and they are actually a product of the city and the product of that instructor. So if there are ways maybe we could diversify the timings of things a little bit more, so that, you know, those who have, you know, 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 classes can do, I know we have a couple, but can do more like evening things. I don't personally know if I'm comfortable with the recording, only because it's something that the instructor has created, and it is their vision of how they want to run their class. And I just want to make sure if there is a video made of these things for long term, then that staff person gets some kind of compensation for whatever downloads or views of their class happen in the off hours, or that the city, if they're taking that class, also sees something. So I think it's really great. I think everything you guys are doing is fantastic, and thank you so much.
Good, thank you. We will explore options to make sure that we can diversify the timing throughout the day or within the week of some of those programs.
Great. I think there's one more question coming from Vice Chair, Ms. Whitney. If you could allow, that'll be great.
Vice Chair Stanek, you're unmuted.
Thank you. So yeah, I'll just chime in with what everybody said. I was one of the most popular people on the block because I got packages of chalk to hand out to my neighbors. And so that was great. I guess we're going to be looking at changing our programs in a lot of new ways. And one of the things that our summer events did last year was take a lot of exercise classes and put them in the parks in outdoor settings. And I'm envisioning that may be something that becomes available sooner than having classes at the sports center or at Quinlan or something else. So I'm hoping that and I'm sure you are, looking at all kinds of ways to provide programming to community members. I guess the other question I had is, now that we've opened up the golf course, and I know it's very limited, it's single play if you're not with someone you live with, and then it's only double play, I think. Have we also looked at reopening that up to foot golf? And one of the reasons I'm asking that is this may be a time that a family wants to just go kick their soccer ball around the 9 holes. And would that be something that maybe could even pick up our volumes at Blackberry Farm? Because families are out and they're just looking for things to do. And I had suggested too, if we don't see a lot of people signing up for single play golf, could we take a day that we just allow people to walk through the golf course on a single, on a loop, one directional path? So I'm just trying to think outside the box. How can we open up more areas where people safely and give them options.
I love those ideas. We have not discussed foot golf yet. I am so impressed with the staff's creativity in coming up with these new programs, and we come up with an idea, and all of a sudden, as an example, the virtual exercise classes, and boom, all of a sudden there's 100+ people that are taking the classes, and some of them are active exercise classes, some of them are chair exercise classes for seniors. I would just encourage all of the commissioners, if you have ideas, such as Vice Chair Stanek just said, please email them to me or email them to Christine and let us know. Because that's exactly what we would love to hear. Foot golf has not come up in our discussions. We did talk about the possibility of outdoor exercise classes, and it's one of those, as different phases of the sheltering in place open up, we want to do more and more. So thank you for those, and please keep sending us ideas.
Yeah, last Saturday I was excited. I saw that one of our instructors, Polly, was giving a class. It was basically devoted to Mother's Day, but I think it was on Saturday. And so I logged into it, and it was one of those sit exercise classes. And I was like, okay, I can still do stuff on my feet. So like, okay, I'm not ready for that one yet.
Yeah.
But it's great to see that stuff, because especially for sedentary people, and Polly does a great job offering these different options for our community, which is awesome.
Yeah. We do have, as you mentioned, walking on the golf course. We have a lot of people that are using the trails within the city, sometimes too many people and too close together. And we're trying through signage or through the ranger program to remind them of the rules. Sometimes we have to confess we get pushback from some of the residents that as we're going through. But for the most part, the community is complying with the rules, that they can go out, they can take a walk, they can exercise. We hope that they remember the social distancing and don't put our rangers in a bad spot. So for the most part, people complied, and we hope more of that continues.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. I think one more, and I saw that right. So, hello, Whitney, you can let the commissioner.
So you're unmuted.
Hi. Yeah. All these wonderful program in this special situation. Yeah, that's really encouraging and very good. I know friends, they follow the yoga class on our city channel, and I heard about the providing meals program. That's very nice. And for the Cupertino Cares initiative, it was great that city staff asked commissioners to help. We are more than happy to join your program and do our own contribution. And I also distributed the chalk to my neighbors, and I also collected some picture of those kids made in front of their garage. And if I can share the screen, I can share those pictures I collected. And I just thinking, because from May, the guideline of our county is already changed, so the park can be partially opened. And I assume in June, maybe more facilities are going to open. So we just hope our city staff can give us an update. And so maybe we can work together to think about maybe how to upgrade our program and how to change it by following the different guidelines from our county, our city. Yeah, that will be great. And thank you so much for working hard in this special period.
Thank you for helping participate. And yes, I can see this as a regular agenda item for the next many, many months. Unfortunately, many, many months as we go through. But yes, we will continue to provide updates.
Excellent. Thank you. And I do have a couple of questions, but before that, I think Commissioner, you said that you have something to share it. If it takes 30 seconds to just flash it. we want to get refreshed. Otherwise, we'll be staring at the screen. We may be like look dull. So for the public can see something really nice. So if you could splash some arts, what the pictures you have taken, if you have it ready, please feel free to share your screen.
I cannot share my screen. It's disabled. It looks like.
Oh, is that? I thought the panelists will have an opportunity, but is that possible by our backend folks who are supporting now? Yep, you should be able to now. I see the flash coming up that you are allowed to.
Okay, let me check.
It'll be just to make sure that otherwise it goes on monotonous where we're all looking at, staring at. So some art would like to see it from the public and they'll be happy.
And now, how can we, oh, yeah. So this is all the pictures. Can you see?
We're not seeing it yet. No, we're not seeing it yet.
Oh, I need to click share. Let me.
Share screen and
yeah, the green button on the bottom.
Okay. Share.
Yep.
Yeah. So can you see the chalk art folder with my picture?
Yes.
Yeah. And just some kids do something. There's no plan. Yeah. Just maybe some simple one, but you can see those kids really into it. They enjoy this.
Life is colorful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Stay fun and healthy.
Stay home. But we're waiting for a better day. And this stay safe with a rainbow. And yeah, this is sum up. Just this is a pinwheel color.
The road now, so I think they're allowing it perfectly.
Yeah, and a little flower with some, and never give up. It says. You can see some heart and maybe some balloons. And this is a sign, the happy face. Don't give up, it says. This is the last one I got. Also a little mouse. Oh, because this is a year of mouse in China. The year
I
of
see.
mouse. Yeah. Okay. That's this. I just stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. I think this is again, I'm sure thanks for taking time and do it. I really appreciate those, the children and the parents, they allowed them to participate in it. I'm sure Cupertino Cares, especially Christian, will be so happy, so thrilled to see that, yes, it is seeing it in live. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for city staff to think about such creative activities. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So I do have a couple of quick questions which aligns with the public comment as well. I had it one. Again, we don't have to go deep into it. I know Director Randy and you and the staffs are working through it, which is one is that how we plan to verify those. Once you get the frontliners list of these are the people, frontliner workers and their families are only allowed in the summer program. I'm not sure what the mechanism to verify. The reason I bring it up, the public has to be notified or they need to know what kind of mechanism, what things they need to bring in or what things they need to have it ready to register so that it'll be good for it. So that's the first question. Is there any program? Again, if it's a long process, if you don't, that's okay. I understand that you might be going through, but if you have any quick answer around it, that I would love to hear how public will know what kind of mechanism to verify their eligibility to put their children in the summer camp.
The eligibility is going to be the same as it is for the golf course or for the tennis courts. Right now, to play tennis with a family member, to go out and play golf with a family member, to put your kids in summer camp, we're going to state the rules, and we can't check pay stubs to see are you really, where are you employed by and things like that. So we're going to have people self-certify that if they sign off that they were an essential worker and how they were, why they were, we were going to go with it, and we're not going to try and verify that. The same as we do with if you and your son want to go play tennis, we're not going to verify that you're really from the same household. We're going to just state the rules and let people self-assess.
Honor system, excellent, thank you. The second question I had was, this is related to some of the written communications we were receiving or questions from the community members. We talked about the qualifying the same on, I think you already partly answered, Director, on the same household, especially for tennis, where there was a question on specifically on tennis, as seniors, many seniors are alone and they don't have the same household member to play with. So even for singles, when they wanted to come and play with it, it is restricting. Current the rules or the practice what we are outlined is restricting them because there is only one person in the household, they're alone, and they wanted to play with their friend. There is another person who is also alone, they want to play. And looks like this current one is not allowing. Is there anything we are going to do that one? Because I know it's a very valid question. So I thought I'll bring it up directly here.
No, I think it's an extremely valid question, and it's for people that live alone, but also for people that live with somebody else who doesn't play tennis, who's never played tennis, or doesn't have the ability to play tennis. And I just want to see my friend and I want to go out and play tennis. And I empathize with the situation, but the county order at this point does not allow for that. And we're going to be following the county and the state guidelines, and we're going to hope that they open up as fast as everybody else opens up. You know, I was a tennis player, I was a racquetball player. Maybe I still am, maybe I'm too old, I don't know anymore. But the bottom line is we play partly for the game, partly for the exercise, and a lot of it's just to see our friends again. And unfortunately, that's not allowed under the current order, which we're going to follow.
Right, thank you. I think we finished it. I don't see any attendees there on it. So I think we finished all the questions. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. If I can just follow up on one more thing that the member of the public asked about. And one of them is about the registrations and the refunds. And we are issuing refunds to everybody that's enrolled in or was enrolled in any of the activities that we've had to cancel. Whitney can correct me if I'm wrong or update me. But starting way back, even with the Big Bunny Fun Run that we had to cancel, fortunately we stopped taking registration fairly early, foreseeing that it was not going to be able to happen, so that we've not had to issue as many refunds as we would have otherwise. But I believe we're well over $400,000 in refunds that we've given out for people that signed up for classes, special events, rentals. There was a wedding reception that was supposed to happen. There was engagement parties that was supposed to happen, birthday parties through our rentals. And so I think it was well over $400,000 at this point we've had to give out back in registrations. We will continue to do so. We did stop taking registration early on, so we did not have a full array of summer programs that people were signing up for. We've held off on that. And if things do open up, whenever they do open up, we are, Branton is here, and Branton is our community outreach specialist, and he'll be speaking on an item in a minute. But he's also in charge of our recreation activity guide. And he's pretty much ready to go when we are. As soon as the flag drops and we're able to start doing things, we're going to start out with e-activity guides as much as possible. We're not going to wait for things to get to the printer and then get mailed out to the households. We're going to try and open them up as fast as we can. So a printed guide would follow the e-guide, and we're going to get that out to the public as fast as we can. But anybody has registered for anything that's been canceled, 100% refund has been given out. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Andy. Okay, so it looks like there is one more question is coming up from another commissioner here. So Whitney, if you could allow.
Commissioner Begor.
I have a lot of questions today, but with regard to that self-assess, it's good to know that we don't have a real good way to enforce it. The flip side of that, and I'm sure you guys are thinking about it, is how do we ensure or explain to the public that it was, we did our due diligence in allowing these people, whoever got onto whatever program they wanted to get onto. So it's like, so let's say there's 10 people that signed up for the math class and there's 20 that want to qualify for it. And, we're expecting them to, be truthful about them being essential workers. We're not going to go verify because we really don't have a proper way to do so. Under these circumstances, I can see there will be a lot of feedback. That's a lot of unhappy people. So do we have some kind of information, some kind of a statement from the city attorney, some kind of a, first come, first serve, we're doing our best? I mean, what are our plans from that perspective?
You're right. There will be some unhappy people, regardless of how we do it. We will try and do it our best and have people self-certify. But if we do have the example that you gave, where 20 people were trying to get into the program, and other people weren't, for us, that's a great problem to have when more people are coming in. And our hope would be that we can open up a second session of the program. Staff came up with some amazing ideas even earlier today in terms of running programs. In fact, I think Branton had a huge hand in that one, so I'll give you the kudos on that. But as we started brainstorming, and probably 6 or 7 people were weighing in on how do we operate camps anymore in this environment, one of the ideas is, because a lot of the camps we run are with specialists. It's a math person or a science person. And if that, and a lot of these consultants, a lot of these contractors, they'll work in several different cities. They might be teaching in Cupertino on Monday, and then they're offering a separate camp somewhere else on Tuesday and a different city on Wednesday. That's not allowed under the current orders. So one of the things that we talked about is having them come in virtually, and yet having some of our part-time recreation leaders in the room to assess the expert who's coming in virtually. And maybe we have a camp that involves the first 40 minutes is math, and then they are taking the yoga break or an exercise break, something that's allowed under the rules without being a full basketball camp is not allowed under the rules, and things like that. So how can we keep kids' attention and move forward? One of the things we talked about this morning is we probably can't have a camp for the 4 and 5-year-olds because they don't understand what social distancing is. And as much as I applaud their emotion, they're going to go over and they might hug another participant in the class or something, and we can't get in that position. So most of our programs are going to be geared for those that are 7 or 8-year-olds and up, and would understand our rules a little bit better, or the rationale going forward to it. So it's going to be a creative program. We're hoping to come up with some concrete guidelines within the next week or so, and then be able to unveil what we're going to call summer camp, even though it's going to look much different than it has in past years.
Great.
So we will still have, sorry, just to follow on. So, I mean, it's a great problem if we could just have, really have like 20 instead of the 10 or whatever. But if we land up with like 12 or 11, and then there will be some, unhappy families. So I'm just wondering, can we do some kind of a, deadline or something? I mean, obviously there will be a sign-up deadline, but, some kind of understand our situation, and here are multiple classes maybe that, you could participate. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, I mean,
it's work in progress, basically.
Well, but that's standard practice for all of our programs. They all have a class limit to them. All of the exercise classes that we offer or anything else, there is a maximum that's allowed because of the room capacity or other. So that's spelled out very well in our basic rules within the activity guide. of how to do it. The catch here is, were you qualified under the rules? And it is possible that somebody who's not qualified to do it, who's staying home, is sending their kids to camp anyway, but there's no way I can really police that.
If we don't have the enforcement, I'm just concerned if that will create an issue for us and how we can think of mitigating it before it becomes one. But that's, I mean, I don't expect that you would have the answer, but just keep that in the back of the mind so we don't have a lot of unhappy people when we're trying to do the best we can.
We will do that. We will. Thank you.
Excellent. I think, again, I'm going to suggest another one. Again, it's already, we spent another 15 minutes, but it's a very, very important topic. It's public really wants to know, and thank you for all your questions and active. I don't know whether we want to have a discussion because it's a very important topic and a lot of things are still evolving. So I'm proposing to move to item number 9, unless otherwise any commissioner really wanted to get into the discussion forum, we can, but I propose, because maybe I think it's partly my mistake that we overloaded the number of items. We thought we can go through everything. At this point, it's very difficult, but I would like to move on because other 2 items are also on that is very difficult for the public to hear from us because that's a current state. Thanks, Director Andy, for providing all the information, and Assistant Director Christian. So it's fantastic. And if there's no objection, if it is an objection, please raise your hand on that one and we can see it. If not, I would love to move on to the item number 9, which is the outreach to public and how the mechanisms for public to contact staff, either for any questions or things. I think that's all going to be covered. If it's okay, I would love to propose, let's move on to item number 9. I don't see any hands, objections raised. So I would like to move on to item number 9, which is the outreach to the public and mechanisms for the public to contact staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an item that you mentioned when we had our phone conversation a couple of weeks ago. We sheltered in place. We did not meet each other, but we did a very robust conversation about it. And one of Gopal's concerns was, how is information being passed on, the communication being passed on during this time? How are we getting information out, and how is the public allowed to get information back to us? And for that, we've asked Brant and Kurt, our community outreach specialist for the city, who's been the key person in this project, to come and give a report to the commission. So I'm going to turn it over to Branton.
Good evening, commissioners. So pretty much I'm going to give you a brief rundown on what the department's done since pretty much we've started closing our facilities. So we closed our facilities on March 16th. And from that date, we pretty much posted on all the facility web pages, posted on the city's web page. At that point, we were doing a daily COVID report. That was a press release that was going out to the public. And we were also posting on any of our social media platforms, Nextdoor, Facebook, and Twitter. And specifically with regards to the facility closures, we posted signage on doors and windows, letting the public know that the facility was going to be closed indefinitely, or at that point until further notice, since we had no timeline for reopening. So that was on March 16th. Immediately after that, as you know, most of our programs, classes, and activities got canceled or postponed. So staff was real diligent in getting emails out to affected customers, community members, calling them. We use social media. Again, we use the daily COVID report, and we also use the city webpage to communicate this to anyone who was affected. So groups, class participants. And then as Randy mentioned, we rolled out virtual recreation. So we actually rolled that out on March 14th. So about 2 weeks after the shelter-in-place orders went into effect. And this kind of included just some general activities that families could do at home. Again, we use various means to communicate this to the public. So email, we emailed it to our pretty much our customer database that we have. We posted in the daily COVID report. It was posted up on the homepage banner on the city's website. And we also posted up on all our social media channels. Following this, we started actually providing the live recreation classes that Randy also alluded to. So again, use all the same means to communicate this. The webpage for that is actually hovers right around 3 to 5 as our most visited page daily in the entire city. As you can imagine, really the only things that beat it out are the COVID report and the city's homepage. Other than that, it kind of fluctuates between a couple other pages with the most visited page. So as you can see, it's very highly visited of people wanting to attend those classes. And as Randy mentioned too, some of the classes are easily getting close to 100 people each time. And participation actually has not decreased very much. We've pretty much stayed level in terms of participation, as kind of maxing the capacity of those classes out at about 100. And then let's see, so on April 23rd, Christine's initiative went into effect with the coordinators, and that was the Cupertino Cares. So we did a huge outreach push for that. So we used pretty much all our social media channels. We used the COVID report. We used the homepage. We used, I believe we used some email for that too, some targeted email to kind of communicate this. We used the Block Leader program, and that program has been extremely successful. Each week, it just participation overall keeps going up. Interaction with the hashtag that we have, so hashtag Cupertino Cares, has been increasing with just people sharing their photos and their activities each week. So on Friday of each week, since Cupertino Cares has started, we post the activity. The following week, typically on Monday or Tuesday, we actually share all the photos that were shared with us through that hashtag onto our city's Facebook page. And those are extremely well engaged with too. Lots of likes, lots of comments are coming through to them. Let's see. And then as you can imagine, since I wrote the report that you guys received, quite a bit has changed in the last couple of weeks. So we've been continuously communicating just ongoing updates to the department. So as Randy mentioned, the 4th of July being canceled, summer events being canceled too. So we've been communicating those for all the same means. So the homepage at this point is a 3 times a week. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday COVID report. So it's being included into that. It's all this is also found on the cupertino.org/coronavirus webpage, where pretty much residents can go and find the most up-to-date information that the city has regarding facility openings, classes, and kind of what we're doing in response to COVID-19. Let's see. Noticing for like the golf course and tennis courts, we use email, social media, the COVID reports again. As Randy also mentioned, the activity guide. So we are offering some paid virtual recreation classes. These are kind of like educational music classes, STEM classes. So we have a virtual recreation guide up on our webpage, and we also put it out through email, social media. And this guide actually gets updated every time we have a new class that gets put forward to us. So I think we've updated it 4 times in the last 2 weeks of just kind of new classes getting put up. And we also have a interactive guide online. So anyone who does go online, they can flip through it, click on something, it takes them right to the registration page where they can find more information about the class and the instructor. And then additionally to that, so how we've been inviting public comment, most of our inquiries about just general resident and media inquiries we're directing to our communication officer, Brian Babcock. So we have his email on any COVID related web pages, directing them to him if they have questions. Additionally, how the recreation department's been handling public input. The senior center's been doing a great job of actually providing their staff's email and phone numbers to seniors, so seniors can actually contact them, talk with them. It's a great resource. I know a lot of the seniors have been taking them up on this offer. In terms of our other facilities, so say Quinlan and the Sports Center, staff's been responding to voicemails that get left on any of those mailboxes within 24 hours. So addressing cancellation of programs, refunds, questions on facility updates, stuff like that. So we're definitely have made it known that we're available to them. We might not be right there answering the phone, but we do our best to get back to them as quickly as possible. And I'm happy to answer any questions on this topic.
Right. Thank you, Brenner, for the update. I don't see any attendees, right? In case if any public, no. So if that is the case, I think I'll open up. This is like if we can combine the questions or any comments also. Let's combine it from any commissioners or anyone wanted to have. But I would like to start with one question, Brandon. Is it like, I know this is all the reports going for people who can access the media. I mean, either the digital media, right? On the web or anything. How are we approaching this one for the people who just have phone? Back onto seniors. I know we are calling all the seniors who are already enrolled in the senior center and which we have a contact on it. But if they wanted to reach out to us, is there any 1-800 number? I see the 408 numbers for our communication one in our update page, but how are we sending them? Like, I know we used to get some like text messages going from the city in general for any emergency and stuff. Is there any of those programs being used to tell them that if they have any questions or they are in trouble, they can just call one number? Either it could be 408 or some number or 800 number or anything. Do we have any of those mechanism, push mechanism where it goes to the people on their phones? People may have just phones. That's the least one. Some people, seniors may not have those access to that too, but assuming that they have phone, but not internet, not computers, let they go and verify it. How are we planning to reach them, or what is the mechanism?
So the city has not used any of the like reverse text messaging since COVID came around. So.
But I would add that all of our regular phone lines, the main lines to Quinlan, to the sports center, to the senior center, are still being answered remotely by staff, that we have been able to forward those numbers through our technology so that we do have staff at home. And I think we've been pretty much able to respond to every phone call or voicemail within, say, 24-hour period.
Great, thank you. Again, before we move on to the next subject, I think if any questions or any comments commissioners have it, please raise your hand so that we can directly go into it. If not, we can go to the next topic. I don't see any hands raised so far, so then we can move on to the next topic on the new business, item number 10, which is the examination of the year-round special events offered by the city. I know some of the parts are already covered, I believe, by Director Randy as well as Brandon, but still we would like to see anything specific. Do you want to call it out? Please, this one, and how are we adjusting it?
So this is an item that came up talking about the summer special events, the summer events program. And the idea was, are we providing these opportunities throughout the city? Or is it mainly just at one facility and people from all parts of the city have to just congregate and there? The idea was, it started as, let's look at the summer events. And then all of a sudden, it through discussion of the commission, it's like, well, let's look at year-round events. Let's look at all of the special events that we do. And then to staff, it also raised the question of, well, what's a special event? And as we started looking at it, it's like, let's open the door, not to just the typical ones over the last couple of years, which we've called those summer events, but to all of those special events. And so I'm going to turn it over to Christine Hannell, who's the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director. And when we looked at it, it was very eye-opening to me, as like, in terms of, wow, look at all the things going on. So Christine has done a study on that, and I'll let her take over.
Good evening again. Thank you, Director Schwartz. yes, just to piggyback off of what the director said, back during the January and February commission meetings, when we were trying to identify some priority items for our work plan, that's when the topic of our summer events came up. And as a commission, I think a few of you had mentioned that, that was a program that was near and dear to your heart, and you wanted to ensure that that was a priority item that was on our list moving forward for our work program. And so during that conversation, as the director said, there was a mention that, hey, I'd love to see summer events offered year round, was what was said. And so we realized at that point that this was probably a good time to share with the commission, especially since we have some new commissioners, share all the events that we do year round. And so we do have an internal document that we maintain as a department. It used to be just for community festivals, but then it's grown. And what we do is we, along with the communications team, Branton assisted monitoring this as well as one of our coordinators, we've begun to include other events on there as well. And what we define as events that would make it on this calendar are events that are open to the public. They could be either free or they could require pre-registration. And so what we've done is we took those events and we've put together a chart, which we'll show you in a moment, that will give you an idea of how they are spread out across our facilities. So we currently offer approximately 100 events throughout the year at 20 different sites. And one thing I just want to mention, we did not include events during this study that are specific to certain target populations. So for example, every year we do a Mother's Day tea, which is offered for our preschoolers, but that tea is only offered to the children that are enrolled in the preschool program. So an event like that, even though we as recreation professionals consider that to be a special event, it is not part of the events that are reflected on this chart. So again, these are community events that are open to the general public. And what we've done here is we've charted out, we'll go to that one there. Thank you, Whitney. These are the events that we currently offer. And what we're indicating on here are the various events on the left side column. And you will see then we have indicated the month that that particular event occurs. And in the farthest right-hand column is the location where that particular event occurs. And we've gone through and tabulated the number of events that we offer, which at this point are 106, as well as by month, how many events are offered. As you can tell, during the summer months, we have a lot of events, and that stems from the summer events that we are currently offering. So that includes the events that are in our neighborhoods, as well as Cinema at Sundown, Shakespeare in the Park, the summer concert series, all those that encompass all those summer offerings. There are some events listed on here that are not coordinated by Parks and Recreation staff, but we still put them on this list because it's important that we as a city are not competing with ourselves. And frankly, at one point, we realized that one particular weekend, we realized we had 3 events being offered. I think 2 of them were from our own Parks and Recreation department. And then there was an event that was occurring with one of the other departments. I think it was Public Works was offering a bike rodeo. And so that's why we maintain, again, this is an internal document, but the events that are highlighted in yellow are events that are coordinated by other departments. The events in green, the Big Bunny 5K, Breakfast with Santa, Cupertino Campout, the Monster Mash Youth Dance, which is for families, and the Signing Santa event, which was new this summer or this winter. Those are events that are open to the public, but they do require pre-registration. But other than those, the majority of the events that appear on this list are free to the public. We also have a map. So just to give you a sense, if perhaps you're not familiar where all of these locations are within our city boundaries, this is our city map, and we've highlighted on here indicating the various locations of the event offerings. Now, this does not reflect the number at each site as the previous chart did, but this just gives you a sense that we really are making efforts to provide events throughout the community to a diverse group of individuals. We try to offer events for varying ages and things that really all of our community members will enjoy. So that is what we strive to do. And let's see, one thing I wanted to note on here. So if you recall in 2018, when we did kick off the neighborhood events, as we called them back then, part of the real objective to doing that was we were hearing from the commission and from the council the desire to get our programs away from Memorial Park and trying to offer them in neighborhoods so that people could hopefully walk to those destinations, as well as just having events that are offered in various segments of the community. So I think we've done a pretty good job, and hopefully this demonstrates to you that there are a number of activities that are offered year round. It's rather ironic that I'm sharing this with you tonight. As Director Schwartz mentioned, we are having to cancel some of our, well, many of our summer events, but we certainly hope that in the future we'll be bringing those events back as we are allowed to do so. And that concludes my information. If you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see any questions we have. Questions or comments. I don't see any. No, I think we don't have any attendees yet, and I don't see any further questions from commissioners, at least what I see on the screen. First of all, again, thank you. One question I have just in general is that I'm sure that this is going to come up, is that we will be revisiting. I assume that we'll be revisiting all those events on how to do it remotely, or since it is going to continue, some of the events, I think we will go into e-learning or whatever, electronic way of conducting it, I believe. That means that some of the programs might change, I believe. Hopefully we can get an update. As I said, I think we should have an update on a going forward basis. That first one we will start on world business. We will make sure that quick update on the COVID related ones and how they're responding to the people and what are we hearing from them. I think that will be a very important one. So maybe I'll have more questions and maybe I'll discuss with you all on an ongoing basis before the next meeting. Thank you. I really appreciate so keeping the spirit up and see people are, hey, we're not just going to stop it and we really going to continue it. And it looks like I'm sure that Commissioner Nisha want to make some comments. Please, this is just an opportunity to make comments or anything. So yeah, okay. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you. This was really great. I know I had wanted to see exactly this kind of list, and that's really cool. I think if there's anything we can help with in terms of virtualizing some of these offerings, because we really don't know how long this situation is going to go on, and if it's going to be linear in terms of its upward trajectory is unfortunately questionable. So it might be a bit of a up and down kind of situation, upward but up and down situation for a while. So if there's anything we can do to help, if it's, providing ideas or helping find people who are willing to do virtual summer concerts. I have a couple of people who I think would be great for it, and even tuning into things like Ikebana Festival. Maybe we don't do that in person, but maybe people can design flowers at their homes and showcase that through a Zoom chat or something like that. So anything that we can do to help out in that way, please do let us know, and would love to see some these amazing things find their way onto the virtual as much as we can. Right now.
Certainly. Awesome. I appreciate those comments. And yes, we would love to hear your feedback. So as Director Schwartz already mentioned, if you have ideas, please feel free to send them to us. We are brainstorming a lot as a staff. So the more ideas, the better. And no idea is a bad idea at this point. We are just, so far, I think some of our best ideas have come out of just a lot of brainstorming and talking through different options and stuff. So please feel free to send those ideas. I would love it.
Awesome, will do.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Pape. I think I just want to second it. Sometime you get inspired by these situations sometimes bring the best out of the people, and I can see always, even without which I think the staff at the Park and Recreation Department, they're always creative. They come up with every new ideas, and now we may think that they are boxed in 4 walls, but no, I think that's what made them to think, you know what, you cannot contain my motivation and the creativity. Just you're challenging me. I'm going to come back and see how best we can offer. So that's the kind of a spirit I see it in every one of those. So I really more like to see it, and definitely we will participate. Maybe let me take just for I may not be as creative, maybe the other commissioners, maybe I'll try to give some ideas and stuff, but I'm learning more from the people, from the ideas from the staff. So again, kudos to the staff who are putting up all these things and still serving the community as one of the top priority. They're still trying to do it. Amazing. And I'm sure that the rest of the city will. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think as you mentioned, sometimes the more barriers you have, and like you mentioned, being confined and between the walls, right? You're just bursting with energy and ideas. And I think that's what I've seen in our staff so far. So, sometimes it's a good thing, right? Out of something, kind of challenging, something really creative and great can evolve.
So with that, I think we finished the new business, but this time I'm going to make one more suggestion. You may be wondering why this guy for the first time making all these things, but I think I'm looking at it, given these are the very critical data, I know we have many old businesses to cover, like item number 5 and 6 and 7. Again, I'm putting it on the proposal that I would like to postpone them for the next meeting, unless otherwise very important things to be really heard about it. The reason is that I just want to put some time cap, given everybody's working, everybody's tired from morning. People may be working on this one, staring at the screen and stuff. So I just wanted to put that as a proposal ask, and I think I do not know. We haven't done it, at least when I was sitting in the commission, we haven't done the postponement. I don't know what the process is. Maybe Director, you can guide me, Randy, what that means. How do we do that one? If we have to postpone this whole business, but still we'll come back to the staff and commission reports before we close out. But if we have to postpone those world business item number 5, 6, and 7, what is the process to go through it?
So we can table those items, and as the chairperson, with there's no objections from the commissioners, you can just say that those items have been tabled. However, for this one meeting, we would ask that you do visit, and I think it was item number 7, which is the criteria for the community funding, because that one is a little bit more time specific than the others. This is the item where outside community groups can apply to the city for funding for special projects, special events, etc. And the Park and Rec Commission helps to set the criteria that should be weighed against. As a kind of an annual process, the community groups apply to the city. And some of those events are specific. Somebody mentioned Ikebana Festival, and that might be an example of something that needs a little bit of support. In this case, what we're going to ask the commissioners to do is just to weigh in and see if the criteria, and I think we can do it fairly quickly, I hope we can, if the criteria in the package is acceptable in terms of the scoring. The finance department is going to go back to each of the community groups this year and double check with them to see if they still need the funds. They might have applied for funds for events that are canceled and cannot be held. And if that's the case, then they would come back the following year with a request. But what we would be asking tonight from the commissioners is just to look at the list of criteria, the maximum awarded points, and if there's any adjustments that you think need to be made, let us know. If you want to bless this going forward, we would then have enough information to take it back to the finance department.
Okay, so if that is the case, let's start with it. I think first of all, I want to propose, thank you, Randy, for the guidance. I'd like to propose to table item number 5 from old business and item number 6. And I would like to item number 7 in the old business, which is the process and timeline for the reviewing the community funding application. You can walk us through and what kind of a decision you are expecting so that we can make it quick.
Okay. Most of the commissioners, I think, have probably seen this last year. Oh, excuse me. I know commission. Yes. No, I was about to get there. And sorry, doing a little bit too much talking and not enough sleep lately, so I apologize.
Please take care. You can wait.
Basashi, I was going to make sure that I brought you up to speed on the process. And in fact, I'm going to let Christine go through it because she's got better historical knowledge on how it came to the Park and Rec Commission anyway than I do. But this year we did go through and we did kind of update the criteria and the points here. And so Christine, if you want to give us a little bit of the background while I finish choking, thank you.
Sure, go ahead and choke and I'll take over.
Oh my God.
No, please don't. Yes, I will do my best. And I think we have Tony here from Administrative Services who could also weigh in on this. So the community funding program in the past had been handled pretty much by Administrative Services. And a couple of years ago, we were directed by council to make some improvements to the program, ensuring, number one, that word was getting out about the community funding opportunities. And it was also decided that there should be a committee or a group that would then review the applications before they went to the city council. And it was decided that this group, the Parks and Recreation Commission, would be the body that would then review the applications once they had been reviewed first by Administrative Services. So there was some policy into place, which maybe Tony can speak to a little bit, an updated policy that went to council. And then now it is coming back to you. And as Randy said, the timeline is being slightly adjusted this year. And so what will happen moving forward is the groups that have already applied this year will be notified that they have an opportunity to resubmit their application, if you will, if they need to, because they may determine that, for example, that their request for funding was for an event that no longer can take place or whatever the situation might be. They can then resubmit their application. Once those come in, they will be reviewed again. And then at the June meeting, the commission will have the opportunity to discuss the approval process. And here's Tony Owase Anderson, who worked and presented the policy and worked on that with you at one of the previous meetings as well. Tony, do you want to chime in maybe on just some reminders and moving forward what we need from the group? Because I know part of this process now also is they're each individually going to have a chance to rate the applications. And we just want to ensure that the commission, everybody is under the same, has the same understanding as to how to rate the applications so that when we return in June, we can do so without there having to be, too much discrepancy or too many, questions as to how to go about doing it.
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Tony Wase Anderson, Administrative Services Department. As Christine and Randy have already mentioned, the community funding program just a little bit different this year, meaning that we did get our new revised policy adopted by the council just in January of this year. And as you know, we took in all the different recommendations that the Parks and Rec Commission had last year, incorporated that into the policy. And you do have a copy of the revised policy as part of the packet for you tonight. And what we wanted to make sure was whether or not you were okay with the evaluation criteria that was set last year. So I know that there is one new commissioner this year, and the others have already gone through the process. And we just want to make sure that the evaluation criteria is still what you want to use. You still want to use that 100 point scale. I believe it was out of 100. And if so, go ahead and bless that tonight. If you'd like to make any changes to that, now would be the time to do so. Just to point out, there are a couple of different criteria or different things that were added to the policy. And again, these were recommendations by the commission. And those were: one, it was to identify if you're a past recipient and a new applicant, meaning you have not received funding from the city before, and how you want to incorporate that into your evaluation process. Maybe that's something you can discuss this evening. That's one item. And the other one was a recommendation on a tiered funding structure. So the policy doesn't outline what you're going to do with the tiered funding structure, but it was a recommendation by you, and it was adopted by council. So if you want to incorporate the tiered funding structure, if that's something that you want to be able to discuss tonight, please do so. Because at this time, we don't know if that means, are you going to make sure that there's at least one person or one organization that's awarded per category, things like that. Are you wanting to make sure that there's at least, a certain amount of percentage of new applicants for past recipients? So things like that. I think it would be good to have that discussion tonight. And what's going to happen is our plan is we have already reached out to the different organizations. So there were 12 organizations that applied, and the applications were due on March 1st. We've already looked at those applications. We've sent them out. We sent an email actually just yesterday to ask if these organizations plan to, if they plan to leave their application as is, or should they need to modify their application, or do they plan to withdraw? And so we're already receiving some of their answers, and we'll have a better sense of what all of the 12 organizations want to do by tomorrow. So with that, we will let you know. Staff will begin to compile your package, which will consist of all applicants. Again, it could be 12, and it could be, that's the max, and it could be a smaller list if they have chosen to withdraw. And it will you'll also be getting similar to last year, you'll be receiving I guess like a little binder or packet, but it'll be sent to you electronically, and it'll have your rating sheet. So it'll have the evaluation criteria that you'll set tonight. And then it'll have your individual ranking sheets. And so these individual ranking sheets will be in the form of an Excel spreadsheet, and you will score each applicant there. And we're hoping to get that to you in the next week or so, to give you about 2 weeks. So the goal is to be able to review them prior to your next meeting, I believe is on June 4th. And so that's what we're hoping for, is that we'll be helping to get your packet together, and you will not be allowed to discuss your ratings with one another. Again, that's similar to last year. What you'll do is you'll have your individual rankings that you'll be looking at, and then on June 4th, you'll come together to discuss your rankings and provide a recommended funding amount to council at that. And how it works is June 19th, I believe, is the council meeting where it's the adopted budget meeting. And so we're hoping to have the dollar amount finalized by that day, before then, to be presented at council on that day. That was a lot of information. Hopefully that's clear. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have any questions.
You have to unmute.
Sorry.
Okay.
So, no, I was saying that I didn't unmute myself. Thank you for putting all these things together. And I think we have done a lot of work on it, and you coached us and guided us on what the right thing to do and stuff, and even took into the council and I think the policies, all of them. I'm not sure where we'll go deep into any of them, revisit all of it, but I'm sure that people will have questions. I do have some questions on this process, but I'll let commissioners to go first on. But before we go there, I think that the ask here is, if I understand correctly, number one, you wanted to get the commission to bless, number one, is any changes are going to be made into the policy or the funding tiers we already allocated? Is there any changes? I assume that's one question, I believe, based on what I noted down. The second one is the evaluation criteria, what we came up with, is it still intact, or we plan to do any more adjustments on it? Is that, just want to make sure these are the two things you wanted the commission to weigh in tonight, right?
Yes, so you won't actually be changing the funding amounts in that's already. What you'd be doing is determining if you maybe want to incorporate that into your evaluation criteria somehow. If you're thinking you're wanting to assign it some points, maybe you don't have to assign it points, but have a open discussion on whether or not of how you want to maybe incorporate that into your evaluation process.
Okay, thank you. I think that makes it. So with that, I think commissioners I would like to invite commissioners to really talk about it. In general, I think there's a question and discussion, but I think definitely a lot of questions will be there before we vote today on what are these two items. So I would like to go and I think, Whitney, if you could let commissioners in order to really ask questions.
So Commissioner Bigor, you're on mute.
So thank you all, the rest of the commissioners, I guess, because last year I was responsible for the Lions Club bike ride, and we got some money from you guys. Thank you for doing this. Now I understand where it came from. I just know I did the application. I just didn't realize that I have all of you to thank for it. So I guess the question, not knowing the whole process here, the couple questions come to mind. So is there some kind of, there's obviously a pool of money that's being allocated for all of these. Is that pool sort of, if you don't use it, it's a use it, lose it kind of thing? So you either allocate it to the various groups or it goes back to the city for something else? I can ask the other question. Do you want me to just ask the two questions and you'll answer, or how's it go?
Yeah, go ahead and ask the two questions.
Okay. So then the other thing is, given this is a weird year, we probably will have 12 people have applied. Maybe 6 of them can't have it because there's no way to gather more than 50 people at a time or whatever, 12 people at this point, right? So what will then, will we then sort of assign the rest of the budget to the ones that come up at the end of the year, or are there any rules, or what happens here?
Tony, do you want to take those, or do you want me to take them?
Sure, I can try, and then feel free to jump in if there's if you have anything else.
Okay.
So as far as community funding, budget-wise and allocations, there's not a pool of money already set aside for the organization. So it's basically how we're doing it is we have the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend an amount, and we actually take that dollar amount and say it's $50,000 that you want to fund for the groups. We take that recommendation to council, and they would consider that dollar amount. There's not like a pool that's already set aside, and there's no to lose it. It's just you make a funding recommendation, and council would decide whether or not agree with your funding amount. And as last year, I think the recommendation from Parks and Recreation Commission was adopted by council. So I believe it was the top 10 of the organizations, and it was almost $90,000 in funding council did not have any questions for those that were funded and approved the recommendation from the commission. Now,
And go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry. I don't know if that answers your first question, but
yes,
Randy,
it did. Thank you. I'm just trying to understand, given everything that's happening this year, where half the events are going to be canceled, possibly.
Of course.
There was something that, if it was a budget that needed to be assigned, or if it's as needs basis.
I was going to add, Tony, it isn't, if I recall, though, there is a maximum that the groups can request, right? Wasn't it 20,000?
Actually, yes, you're right. What happened was previously there was no maximum that an organization can request, but we did recommend a $20,000 cap per organization, and that was adopted as part of his policy. So $20,000, no more than 20.
Okay, so that kind of sort of answers my second question in that, if given that many of the events may get canceled this time, we don't know for sure, but maybe at the end of the year, there may be a few more events, but at this point in the foreseeable future, we probably won't have a lot happening. So anything that gets assigned, but the fiscal year we're talking about is July to July, or is this like applicable for the calendar year?
It would be, should funding be approved for an organization, their dollar amounts, they'll receive a check in July, and their program or event, it should be within that year of July through June. So it'll be July of 2020 through June of 2021. And this is part of the reason why we had reached out again to the organizations, because when they had submitted their applications, say in February, we didn't have all the social distancing requirements or whatnot. So as we are going back and asking the organizations now, if they already have a plan in place, say they think that the program that they maybe submitted an application for, they're probably thinking, hey, maybe we're going to make this a Zoom event now. Some organizations may be thinking that already. So we wanted to reach out to them to give them the opportunity to tell us, hey, we're changing our event. We cannot have our festival any longer, but we are moving it to be virtual. So perhaps instead of asking for $20,000, you're only going to ask for maybe $10,000 now. We're not sure, but we're in the process right now of having them redo their application if needed. Now, say they hope that they will have their event, say they hope to have their big, event that's, say they think it's going to be in December, and assuming that it's going to happen, and say that it doesn't happen. So that's something that the city will have to take into consideration moving forward. Are we going to develop some sort of agreement or some sort of contract to say, hey, giving you an extension to have the program. So, given that we've given you $10,000 but you didn't have your event, we're hoping to have your event, and in the event that you cannot have it, the city perhaps will develop, work with our legal team to develop some language about what we could do moving forward in granting some sort of versus, asking for the money back, right? So we'll have to think about those next steps should we get to that point.
So just as a follow-up to that, we just provide them the checks as a guarantee that they will, for them to do their planning. I mean, given that I was part of that Lions Club thing last year, it felt good to get that check. But in these circumstances, should we just hold off providing them the check other than just giving them the check this time? I mean, I'm just throwing ideas here. Is that something that we have ever done or never done?
In the time that I've been a part of this program or a part of the process, I'm not sure that they've done that. My understanding is that they've always issued the checks to organizations every July. So it was always adopted in June or approved by council, and then we would issue the checks in July. And it's based on an honor system, that you'd be, using the funds as stated as you would be using them in your application. So given that things could be different this year.
Yeah, no, sorry. Go ahead, finish.
Okay. So we've not done that. I mean, it's something that we could definitely propose to the finance team and see if that's something that we'd be willing to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt the honor system at all. I'm sure if you give a check to an organization for an event, I'm sure they're going to use it for that. That was not where I was coming from. I'm just, given all the budget shortages that we have, we potentially can have in the city. I'm just trying to see whether, if they're not going to have that event, why are we allocating money for something that may or may not happen? That's just a thought there.
I think you're completely right, and I think it is something that's going to have to be taken into consideration. If there was he was proposing a water polo event for August, it might be a wonderful thing, and it might have happened in previous years, but we know it's not going to happen this year. I think both staff and the city council are going to have to take into consideration, staff in terms of a recommendation to the council, and council in their final determination.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Tombe is on next.
Excellent. So, yeah, I mean, the previous commissioner had outlined a lot of what I was going to say, so not going to repeat it would be great.
So I think we lost the audio from Commissioner Tombe. We couldn't hear you still.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna just turn off my video because that might be affecting the bandwidth a little bit. So the main, like I said, the commissioner previously had outlined one of my major concerns, which is I don't want to give a check so far in advance to something that may or may not happen. I also want to see if there's a way that we could essentially request, a $20,000 budget allocation to community programs for the next fiscal year. That is a new pot of money that we can keep so that as different programs pop up around COVID, we'll be able to support those additional programs rather than just committing to the 12 that might have applied in a cycle that is not traditional, and we have to find ways of being flexible. So if our finance team can agree with that, or at least we can create our own mini allocation inside of the request that we're sending, I think that would be ideal. And then the second thing is, I'm particularly, in terms of the actual criteria for us to judge these applications by, I do want to, for the ecosystem that we're in right now, make sure that we're including our various COVID-related strategies. And I know that that's what we're looking for in the email, but I do want to make sure that we're funding similarly as well. I know we can't necessarily put that in because this has been adopted, but that's going to be one of the mindset things that I'll be going in with as well. And sorry, I had to turn off my video while I said that.
Sure. Thank you. And any answers from Randy, Tony on that part? Other questions?
I think it's an excellent point, and I agree, even if it's not within the specific criteria in terms of the point scale, it's something that can be considered, and we can outside of, since this is obviously an abnormal year at this point.
Thank you. And with that, I think I do have a couple of quick questions, and maybe then we will try to, and I know everybody's tired, and I'll try to be very quick. Number one, I think, Tony, you called it out that when the organization can't do it, and when we call them and say, hey, can you still continue to do it? If they come back and say, no, I cannot, can they submit an alternate proposal to take care of anything related to COVID or the current situation? If they come out creatively and say, you know what, yes, the one I submitted was prior March, where the situation was not there, but there's a new situation. I plan to do something, but the deadline was over, right? So when you go back, when they withdraw, are we allowing them to withdraw and resubmit because they already fulfilled their needs in March? Are we going to allow them to resubmit it? within a very short time, because they may have some creative ideas to serve the community. Do we have that option, or is it talked about it?
So if you can clarify, so are you saying, so they say an organization already submitted their application in March, but we are going back now to ask them if they have any ideas to for a different type of program. This is the time now where they can tell us that they have that they have plans for a new idea. So we're hoping to have that approved by. We're trying to have that approved by you in the next, in the next few weeks. Their ideas.
Maybe
now,
I was not clear on the question. Maybe let me. The process is that we will be sending back. We are asking the community, assuming that one community submitted the water problem. Let's take that as an example. We said, hey, are you sure that you're going to do it, or your application is still valid? And if I am the community, I'm the organization who submitted, I said, you know what, absolutely, it's not possible. But you know what, I do have a different way to, different ideas to serve the community. Can I resubmit my application with a new project? Because if I ask, what would be the answer from city? Hey, you submitted it, either you withdraw and go away, you're not eligible, or we're going to say, yes, you can withdraw the prior project, whatever you asked for, and you can submit with your new idea because you're accepted because you already submitted before June, before March. Is that provision available for a community? The organization?
If I can help clarify just a spec, with an event I saw earlier today online as I was looking up some of these things, let's say one of the groups decided that they were going to put on, and they applied for funds to put on a concert in Memorial Park. And they were going to have 200 people show up. And we've determined that we can't have an event with 200 people show up in August. We can't put on that concert. If we went back, though, and they said, we're going to hold it as a drive-in concert. So people will drive into the De Anza parking lot or a high school parking lot, and we'll set up a stage, and the band will be on the stage, and people will stay in their cars, they're socially distanced, and perform the same type of event, but a different way. Would they still be eligible for the funds from the city? Does that summarize the question?
Yes. That partly answers my question, where the same program is modified. That's one option, which is absolutely agree. The second one is that I cannot do that at all, but I do have a new ideas popped up based on the new situation to serve the community, and I want to submit it, which can be completely not relevant to the one prior to what I submitted. Is that as an option for that organization to resubmit the new ideas?
Okay.
If I can add something, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Tony, but I feel like I need to clarify that many of the community funding organizations are requesting money for their organizations to build a new fence, to operate their programs. These are groups like West Valley Community Services, the Historical Society. This is not the groups that put on festivals. The festivals are funded and submitted, their requests are submitted through recreation staff, through our special events division. So that is separate. So I just want to make that clear. To be honest with you, it's in the past, based on our past applications, there aren't really very many events that are requesting funding through community funding. These are organizations that need assistance for their operating costs, or maybe they have some new program that they need to start, and they need some piece of equipment that needs to be purchased so that they can provide their service to the community. So I hope that helps, because I feel like we're assuming that these are all event or festival related, and they're really not, at least not in the past.
Okay. Again, that's just a question I had, because if I am an organization sitting outside, even I want to do some program, I might come and ask for it. But that's the one. I know the hands are being raised in two areas, but I do have one more quick question before onto it. The second one is this budget decision is being made by next city council meeting, or when these decisions are to be made, like in June, city council, they will be approving it on it. And
Right.
if
The second
assuming-
meeting, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The second meeting in June is typically when the budget is adopted.
Got it. And the follow-up question, which also Commissioner Tambe brought it, is assuming that we have only out of the 12, and if we have a lot of people withdraw, then we'll have less people. And then if we are not able to utilize, I know there's not a cap here. Last time, anything between 90 to 100K kind of, that's what we were always trying to give back to the community. And I don't want to lose that opportunity. While yes, budget constraints are there, but I want to know, is there any reserve that can be a provision to reserve money to help organizations later when it comes to? So I do not know. I don't know that you will have it, but I just want to put that on the table. I don't know the budget provision, how it works on this particular topic. I'm trying to bring that also, try to highlight. That's one option. So it looks like Commissioner Chu has raised her hand. Literally, she raised her hand. So
Yeah, I cannot find the raise hand icon.
Oh my God. That's good. I can see
just change.
If you click participants, it's under the participants tab on the right hand side.
But after I share that window, I think my status changed. So now
Yeah, she's been upgraded to the other participant.
no.
That's the advantage or disadvantage. Sorry, Commissioner.
Yeah, I have a question about the item 5. It said the organization got the community funding in first year. They need to submit a report about how they used the money, all the details by the 15th business day of July following the fiscal year. So that means if some organization got the funding in 2019, they are going to submit a report in July 2020. Is that right? I just want to clarify. Yeah, maybe. So this is a new rule, I think. Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. It is a new rule that was adopted as part of the revised community funding policy. So currently, the organizations that have funding for this fiscal year, which means from July of 2019 through June of 2020, they're not aware of this yet. But we will be reaching out to these organizations to let them know, actually very soon, that come by July 15th, I believe that was our deadline, they will have to submit they'll submit to the city a report of how they use their funds for this current fiscal year. And we do realize that there may be a chance that some organizations who did receive funding in this current fiscal year had an event that might have happened in the spring and had to be canceled. That's something that we'll have to take into consideration as well. So we'll find out whether or not they were able to use their funds and were not able to due to COVID related reasons. We'll have to determine what the city would like to do to move forward next steps in a situation like that, because otherwise we wouldn't have any idea. Organizations aren't coming to tell us that they have not used their funds, or they were unable to use their funds for their program or event this fiscal year. So July 15th, they will have a report on what happened in this current fiscal year.
Okay.
Right.
And thank you.
And then I do have a clarification. So I do, to what Christine was mentioning earlier, for the applicants, the people who did submit, the organizations who did submit applicants this year, there were actually a couple, or at least a few festivals and program related. So, it could be different from previous years, but there were some applicants. And, there is a chance that they're requesting to modify their event, or and we're not sure, but we'll have a better idea in the next couple of days.
Excellent, thank you. So with that, I think we are moving on to, I think there are 2 questions, and I think that's what you want a commission to vote on today. And I just want to reiterate, number 1 is on the tiered funding policy. Again, Tony, please correct me if I misspell. So the number 1 is that do we have to change any of the tiered funding policy? Is that we wanted to change or follow what we originally planned, which is outlined in the document? That's one. The second one is the evaluation criteria. Do we want to make any changes or not? Is that right? I just want to make it clear.
Sure. And just to clarify, not any changes to the policy, but to the evaluation criteria. So
that means only voting on only one part, which is the evaluation criteria.
Yeah. Yes. So basically, what we'd like to know is if the evaluation criteria that you used last year is sufficient, and you would like to use that same form as you evaluate this next round of applicants, then if we're good to go. There's nothing else need to be done. We just want to make sure that that's the form, because that's what's going to be sent to you from Whitney in the next week.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah, I think looks like Commissioner. Yeah, please, Sambe, go ahead.
So I think the only 2 things that I would like to add to that form are 1, preparation for potential virtualization / COVID response. So just making sure whatever it is that they're doing, if they need to change the way they're doing it for COVID, they have thought about that. And then the second thing is it organization essential? So like if it is something that the organization will not be able to survive without, then I would like to know that. If it's like a key necessity for their survival, then I want to make sure that that's prioritized as well.
So I think if I understand Commissioner Tampe's question, so these are the things we want to know from those
no, this is what I would like to add to the evaluation criteria is specifically for this year, but that's the COVID preparedness, either virtualization or in person or whatever they need to do to make sure they're compliant. Are they prepared? And the second thing.
Sorry, we lost your audio, Commissioner Tambe. We lost.
Here the second.
I think looks like some audio difficulty there with the commissioner. So I think let's unmute it again. But I don't know. Can you unmute? Looks like Commissioner Tambe is muted right now. Hello, Whitney. Can you try? Because
I'm selecting, but it's not. It's not
allowing you to unmute. Okay. The back end, of course, support we have if they can help.
Oh, there we go. Now she's unmuted.
Okay, Commissioner's back. Commissioner Tambe, let's speak. I think we lost you in the second part of.
I can also. Oh, we have to vote on it. So the second part is the necessity of it. Last time, I believe one of the organizations was asking for something that was critical to their ability to function in the rain. And so that was like mission critical. I just want that to be added.
Okay. So, those 2 comments here, and I think I do see Vice Chair Chanakas will raise the hand. So, would allow Whitney, if you could allow Vice Chair to speak. Let's see. Looks like something is going wrong. I think Vice Chair is speaking, but we couldn't hear.
Okay, hi.
Yep.
I just got unmuted. Okay. I didn't hear anybody calling me, but then I saw that it was that you were unmuting me. So I guess I'm not quite clear about our process here. Are we making motions of what we want to include here, and then we will have discussions on those motions of the changes? Are we having
Yeah, I guess maybe let me jump. I think there's a question. Still, we are questioning and discussion part. We haven't started the motion because I just was clarifying on what topic we need to make a motion on it. And the only thing we are asked to do it as commission tonight is, are we planning to revisit the evaluation criteria And if none, there's nothing to be done. There's no motion because this was already approved. So I don't think that we have to do anything. But if you make any changes, if you introduce some changes into it, like Commissioner Tambe talked about it, if you are introducing it, where do we want to introduce it? And does that changes the maximum point scores? Because it is each one of the items we agreed on with specific scores to match to 100. That's all it is. I think we are discussing now. I think we are not in a position to make a motion yet, because I just want to make sure that what's our suggestion to add, modify if need to. And we already heard from Commissioner Tambe. So Vice Chair, trying to.
Okay, so what we're looking at here, is this exactly what we used last year?
Yes, this is the one we came up with, the final one, that this is what we want to use.
Okay, so last year there was this last criteria that says past performance and compliance with requirements if a recurring applicant. So it seems to me that gives a 5-point advantage to any organization that has previously participated. And is that really our intention, that we want to give an advantage to organizations that have previously participated? Because I presume if an organization has not participated, then they have to get a 0 on this. Is that the intention here?
If I remember correctly, I'm just thinking of myself on it at the time when we participated. You're right. The reason we put in there at the time, if I remember, is that we have seen them executing it. We have seen all the data, and then it benefited the community. So that we said, okay, we wanted to. But you're right, the Commissioner. What you're raising is a point that it negates for somebody who submits for the first time. They lose 5 points to start with.
Right. Right. And I thought as that discussion was held last year, that there was actually an interest in bringing on new organizations, and sort of the opposite of this. So I'm thinking, wondering if maybe this particular question should be something that's answered in the application, but not part of the criteria, so it doesn't advantage or disadvantage previous participant. I mean, we may want to go further and say, is this a participant who has never participated, and give them points. So that's sort of the choices that we have to make there.
Okay.
So I think you want to have a discussion about that?
Yeah, we want to have, I think it's a discussion altogether. Let's go for it. I think I see Commissioner Tambe also raised a hand. So let's talk about it. And that means, looks like we are suggesting some modifications. So let's go over it quickly so that we can finish it up. So I think.
I already suggested my 2 changes. In terms of that final question, I would actually opt to keep it as is. I don't actually see it as a deduction for other teams, because one of the things that we had done in the guide thing is we separated it out into different segments of price point, so that we would be aware when we're making the decision that we are looking at those smaller programs too, because the smaller programs typically ask for smaller dollar amounts. So if I remember correctly, that was one of the reasons that we wanted to have that in there, so that new ones aren't competing with old established ones that typically ask for more money, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but the way the tiers work don't have anything to do with whether they've participated before or not.
Right.
Yeah, but there's a pretty strong correlation between it.
It's a really different point.
I mean, I still think it should be included on this, but that's just, my.
Okay, so we will. Okay, looks like definitely we are planning to modify this one. So let's see it.
I have a question. I mean, I have a point.
Please.
Just as a reminder, in the current in the revised policy, you also have 2 different buckets that you created. You have a bucket for for past recipients, and you have a bucket of new applicants. So that's something that wasn't determined yet. We don't know. The commission has not decided yet how to, I guess, how you're going to choose. Are you going to choose X amount from this batch versus this, be new applicant, make sure a certain amount of new applicants are receiving funding versus not. So that's something that wasn't determined last year either. So you will have different buckets of applicants.
Yeah, I think
as well.
Yeah, I think we maybe can't, at the time we might have not realized it, but I do see that that's contradicting, because if they says will be sorted on 2 categories, I see it as new applicants and past recipients. And then if you say past new applicants, if I take that as 1 category, if I start evaluating it, I cannot allocate that 5 point at all, because they're all new applicants. So that means I'm evaluating against 95 points, because I'm not doing it for 100, because by default the question is common for both the recipients, applicants. So it says about, are you a participant? If it is, then they're getting 5. For the new applicant category, I think we are defeating the purpose on that too. So I do agree that we ourselves are contradicting on that point. The evaluation sheet is common, but if you're going to evaluate it with 2, and 1 is specifically calling about the past recipient, which means it will not be applicable for the other one. That means 5 points will be gone for the new.
Yeah, I think that takes care of it. I think that takes care of it if we do it in 2 different buckets.
But
I think maybe the question there is not really clear, though. It's how were prior dispersed funds used. I mean, when you're giving points to something, it's you want to rate something as dispersed funds were used appropriately or something like that. It's not how were they used, because they were used for a program.
So I think looks like there are 2 points brought it up, or may I suggest we'll put for voting. So this needs modification at this point. That's what I think Commissioner Tambe suggested, and I think Vice Chair, what you brought it up. Looks like the last question is in kind of in a debate form. I think the thing is that how they are ready for the COVID-19 digitally, are they ready to do it? I think that's a question asked. Commissioner Tambe, correct me if I not paraphrasing properly. So if that's a question, we need to put that somewhere in it as part of the evaluation criteria. And I don't know whether it falls into any of the existing bucket, or we may end up in using the last one now for that. I do not know.
I think.
Yeah.
So
you can suggest. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I personally, I'm going to use the structure that we have right now. And if I were using the structure that we have right now, I would put it under alignment with city priorities, just so we don't have to reconfigure the point.
Got it. So you will add, your suggestion is to add 1 additional bullet point.
COVID prepare. It's just a bullet point.
COVID preparedness.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the 1 suggestion. And Vaishar, what's your thing on the last question? So do you propose any changes into the last question?
No.
And Commissioner Shu has her
person. Well. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't see that one. Okay.
Yeah, I also have something to talk about this last one. And I remember in discussion last year, we were talking about if an organization got money this year, maybe it's not definitely a plus for their future application. If their money was not well used, can we give them negative score for the last one? I remember we talked about it last year. And at that time, we also asked, how can we know the money was well used? And I think those questions, just because we asked those questions, this year we have the new rule that asks the organization got money to submit a report in July to prove the money was well used. But here's another question, because they gave the report in July, but we need to review their next year application in April. So how can we know the money was well used in April or May when we review their application? Because they can give a summary how they used the money in July.
Yeah, it's a valid point. Okay, so if if I may, I know, I think we can discuss, but I think we need to make a decision and move on it. So this is what I'm proposing. Again, we can discuss if that's not acceptable to do it. One is definitely, we want to add the COVID response readiness as one of the items, one of the bullet points in the alignment with city priorities, because that's one of the key topics. So that's one thing which I also agree. But again, we will take a vote, but that's one, we should be adding it. Where do we add also? I think city is really prioritizing that as a number one now among all of them, given the current situation. So absolutely perfectly fits into it. The last one has too many complexities on it right now on whether it is, and I personally see that too. So it's my personally proposing it and see whether we can. I would like to see that one removed, rather that 5 points get added to the alignment city priorities, because COVID, even if we add it, we're not giving any weightage. So I would like to see that whether we can add it into it, which avoids the two confusions we had. One, are we really giving the past applicants as a priority over the new, number one? Number two, what the commissioner, she just brought it up, is that we cannot have any answer to the however the prior distributed fund is used while we make a decision now, because we will see reports only by July. So we cannot make any decision on that based on it.
So
is that
so? If
that's
I
what
can
I
just
see
make
it?
a suggestion.
Please go
If I
ahead.
can just make a suggestion, Tony, I don't know, I hope you're still on the line there. Is it okay if a different rating sheet is used for the returning people versus the new applicants? I mean, it seems to me like that could be done as well if you wanted to make an adjustment on one of the criteria points and, you know, replace it with a different question or reallocate the points so that you still have the 100 points for the new applicants. That's just a suggestion that I think, you know, it's up to you if you want to do that.
I would echo that suggestion, but I would also add to it that it does not have to be a 100-point scale. If the commissioners, as Commissioner Tombe suggested, wants to add something such as the COVID related and give it a score of 10 or 20 or something like that, you can have a 120-point scale just as easily. Do not feel restricted to 100. So I would agree with Christine that we can have a separate for new applicants and a separate one for returning applicants. And then if you want to add the other criteria with a point value that exceeds 100, that's perfectly okay. We'll be able to handle that in the evaluation process.
Okay, I think that I hear you, but I'm not sure. I couldn't process how I will map with 100 points, 120 points for two things. I'm not sure. But in the meantime, looks like Commissioner who has some raised a hand, and I would like to hear from that too before we move on to.
So, Mike, just
Sorry,
a
go ahead.
concern of, you know, not getting the report back before we decide. Couldn't the report be part of the applicant requirement? So if they're a previous applicant, when they put in the application, hopefully their event has occurred before March? No, or is it up to July? It's up to July. So they potentially will not, some of them will not be able to participate. So they can't give you that information even if they wanted to.
So if somebody was applying for an event that's going to happen, you're applying for the July 1st funding. Not going to happen until early summer the following year. We still would not have the results before you needed to apply already. I agree with you. If the event happened in November, December, we could request that the report be given within 30 days after the event happened, or as Christine mentioned, if it was building a fence, after the completion of the fence was done, give us a report within 30 days. But if it's an early summer event, if it's a May event or a June event, then that's going to happen after we have to make a decision for the following upcoming year.
Okay, so thank you, Director Randy. So looks like okay, 2 more hands raised on it. And hello, Whitney, if you could allow the commissioners to come online. I think we will make a call quickly, and I don't want to go beyond 10:30. I'm just trying to see that, okay, in 10 minutes. Okay, but let's go quickly on. I think there are 2 comments.
Commissioner Stanek, you're unmuted.
Okay, thank you. So on the COVID-19 preparedness, if I guess I'm okay with having that as part of one of the other criteria. And so one of my questions is, does the application address that? Because if the application doesn't address it, how are we going to know? So if we're going back to these organizations right now, if that's going to be one of our criteria, it seems that we need to be asking that and getting their feedback on that. Otherwise, we're not going to have the information to even be able to rate it. The other thing is, if it's buying a piece of equipment, then it really isn't COVID-19. It doesn't have any relationship to COVID-19. So I wouldn't want to, disadvantage an organization because their particular request does not have any, COVID-19 doesn't have any impact on them. So I guess maybe having it as one of the other criteria is being lumped in there. If their request is for something that is dependent on COVID-19, then they absolutely need to tell us how they're going to manage that if there are restrictions in place.
That's a very valid point. Your commissioner is raising it. In the meantime, I know Commissioner Tombe is also, please, let's unmute and hear from her.
Okay, Carol, I completely agree with you. I think we should just fold it into alignment with city priorities.
Yep.
And I was actually thinking for the last one, we have past performance and compliance with requirements. What if we made that application impact? So we can change that to application impact, and then we can put 2 bullet points. One is past performance. So, have they gotten funds before? How are they used? So if they did get funds before, they used it well, we could give them 5 points. If we didn't feel like that product was the event or the experience or whatever they're doing wasn't that impactful, or we didn't want to give them that money, again, we could decrease the points. And the second bullet point can be novel. So, or originality. So that way, if it doesn't qualify for past behavior, we can create a second bullet point, which is under that same section, is this novel? So if they didn't get money in the past year, how novel is this new idea? Do we want to award points for the fact that it's novel? And I think that would take care of both sides of a new idea, as well as making sure that we're giving points to organizations that have performed well in the past and keeping new organizations with the ability to actually get funding.
I like it. I think maybe no more hands raised, I believe. Oh, I think you're not going to let me really move anything on it. No, I'm just kidding. I know, Commissioner Barker. So after that, can we disable for everyone after that? No, I'm just kidding. Please, go ahead, Commissioner.
Sorry to be a pain, but I think
the community, so be as painful as you can, because we are trying to do the right thing for the community. Please.
Right. So, I mean, supporting what Commissioner Zhu said, so those guys that will have the event, so this evaluation criteria will happen again before they are able to submit their report.
All right. So I think
so. We'll still have a small percentage of people who have previously received the funding. Take, for example, I don't know, West Valley is doing something for COVID all the way up to, June, end of June. And we're going to decide, and they don't give their report till July 15th, they're going to lose the 5 points because they haven't finished their event till end of June.
No,
so there's no way we can kind of cover everything. So the thing would be either that we take out that question, and since we are, we take out the question and make it out of 95. Now,
Sorry, Commissioner, for interrupting. I don't want to, but I think the last comment made by Commissioner Tambe addresses those issues because it simply calls out. I like it personally because it says application impact, right? 2 bullets. First one takes care of all the people who already organizations who already submitted. We are going to remove those fund used kind of how they really performed in generic. It's a generic word, so we can see is that really benefited and kind of we can learn from the report. The second one says is a novel idea, anything new, which means
that's true.
And then if it is, that means it's not even talking about the fund. That means that the July submission, all of those questions are out now because it's ambiguity. But I think that answers your questions as well. That's what I see.
So explain the first part again. So I must have missed something. Which is
maybe
the first?
I would like. Commissioner Tambe, can you go ahead? I really love that clarity between those 2 bullet points. Can you just spell it out clearly so we can just take a note and then just modify it? And then when I modify means we'll put up proposal here to change that. But I think, can you please highlight?
If you're calling on me, I'm very close to just making a motion.
Yeah, you can make it and make a motion. That's how it should be. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm sorry. I think it's funny because this is like way past my bedtime.
Sure,
I'm gonna make a motion. I am moving to amend. I move to amend the application vetting, whatever we're calling this sheet, evaluation criteria rating sheet, to include COVID response preparedness under the alignment with city priorities section, and converting the second to last row to say application impact with a first bullet point talking about past performance and program efficacy. So that's, previous has this worked out well for the community? And the second bullet point to be originality. So it can be judged on either of those 2 criteria and be given points based off of those 2. So that's my motion. I am looking for a second.
Before we go there, is it possible to request for amending or how it goes? Because we just talked about that we don't want to include the COVID response in it simply because people may be looking at, oh my God, I've been evaluated on something which nobody knew it and they just introduced it. So
if I can suggest,
please.
I can suggest you first would probably want to have somebody see if anybody's willing to second the nomination.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's why I didn't know the process.
And then have discussion afterwards.
Okay.
Can I point out real quick, we do have a section in there that is uniqueness of programs and events, and I'm wondering if that does duplicate the novelty, or how that would differ.
So let's have somebody, if somebody's willing to second the motion, then we can have the discussion.
Okay, so I second, and then we'll have a discussion. So I second the motion.
Okay. And then Whitney bring up a good point. So let's go back to the person who made the motion. If that suffices.
Hello?
Uniqueness of program, project, event. I don't remember what this row was, candidly, which is why I just put this in the second section. I thought it was just like, we don't want to give like, $90,000 exclusively to like preschool mental development programs. So if it was something that was really different, I think my intention with the last bullet point was giving opportunity for additional points to new applicants. But I'm no longer married to any of this, so whatever you guys want to do is fine.
So, sorry, I know it's everybody's getting tired. So I seconded it. I think we should. I know both. We have the motion in place. I seconded it, and I do want to discuss a few things. But I think it's not going to be. We are only evaluating it, and we know the community knows why we introduced it. So let's go for voting, please.
Okay, Chair Kumarapam.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Stanek,
Aye, I support.
Chair Tombe,
Yep.
sorry, Commissioner Tombe, Commissioner Bangor,
Did we
Is
get
that
it?
me? Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I guess it's a yes. I'm not so happy about it, but yeah.
You don't have to vote yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but I think, I don't know, putting this back into the, sort of reinventing the wheel at this point is, is it worth the hassle? I'm sure there are other ways we can catch the problem.
Okay.
I do have a concern, but I will say yes.
Commissioner Shu,
Yes.
And is it all voting done?
So the motion passes.
Motion passes. So we are going to make that modification as suggested by Commissioner Tompe, and that's that. I think, Tony, you have the answer for you. That's the one thing you want the commission to decide. So you have that one. Excellent. Thank you. Wow. I know this is definitely, I want to finish it all. Like, glad that at least we pushed 2 of the items. Next time onwards, when we put this agenda, I'll make sure that we'll put it little and we will do a time cap on it and given this one. So I'm extremely sorry. Apologies for keeping everyone staring at the screen for 3 hours or 3.5 hours. So with that, I think we are moving on to the last item on it, reports from the director or from
But
staff.
before we move on,
that's all I have. I'm sorry.
Chair,
Yes, please.
I would just like to make more comment on this topic, if I could. Is that
Motion
okay?
passed, but
Something
I'm
I
not
think
sure.
we need to.
Yeah, go ahead, please. If it is short, we'll just
Yeah, I'm
listen
not
to it.
talking.
We may not-
This
we
isn't
may not
about the
discuss that.
criteria, so I didn't want to introduce it.
Sorry, go ahead, please.
This isn't about the criteria. So it's something that I just want to put out there, that we need to think about how we are going to recommend, given that we have tiers, because we will have the projects will come in and they will naturally fall in the tiers and we will rate them, but we will need to decide which ones we're actually recommending in each tier and how we go about doing that. Because it could be that the number 1 project in the $1,000 to $5,000 dollars is something that doesn't really rank very high. And so we're going to need to think about how we, because they're going to be in different tiers and different buckets. And now we've got the new and the old as well. And we've only got 12 projects starting out. And so that's going to be a different challenge for us this year.
Maybe, yeah, I agree. Maybe can I request the city staff, especially I think Tony and Randy, it'll be good to hear from you, because I don't want to, I know this is a very valid point, Vice Chair is bringing it up. We wish we could have a little more time to discuss this one before we approve, but I think we are in a time crunch to really help. But at the same time, we want to see a guidance. It'll be great if you could, because again, I don't want to go on active discussions, but I would request staff, Tony, I think since you have been there in this program, you have gone through it, you know what it is. It'll be good if you and maybe Director Randy to come up with some guidance and tell us. I think that would help us. We just need a guidance so that we will just adhere to it. We may be able to correct it for the next year, but I think we will just follow with the guidelines. You have the questions. You have the question from Vice Chair on how do we really wanted to do it on the tier system. So I'm just looking for a guidance which you can send it to us, which we will follow as part of the evaluation when you send it the packet. If you give us a guidance, we will go with it. Yeah, we might be able to, I think we might make mistakes in that evaluation, but I think when it comes together, when you do combine, hopefully that will neutralize the other mistakes, if at all, if you have made it. So I'll look for the guidance, and that's the only request I'm putting it for the staff pack.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's fine. We can do that.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Vice Chair, for bringing it up. But again, this will go for iteration every year. But glad that we are bringing up so many good points. And I really appreciate that. I know it was too late and everyone, but it's all going to the community. And every minute, every second we spend here is towards to benefiting the right community, right organization. So I feel so proud about on that one. So thank you. Thanks for being there and to spend time. Let's go to the staff and commission reports, item number 11. And I'd like to go directly to the director report.
You know, we've talked so much about all the programs going on right now and all the ones that are canceled. I don't need to have much of a recap on it, but I would like to congratulate all of you on your first Zoom meeting, especially with as an example, with the last item where it was handled very well. It'd be much easier to handle it if we were all in the room and could have a different discussion, but for everybody to follow the rules, to raise the hands, to have the discussion and move forward. This is fantastic that you've been able to accomplish that. And I appreciate, even if it did take a little bit longer than it normally would have, everybody stayed with it. And so I do appreciate that. And again, I just want to welcome Joanne McGreeny to the role of the director. And we look forward to working with her. So thank you very much. And that's my report.
Thank you, Director. I really appreciate it. So we have any commissioner reports?
Hey, Randy, is this your last meeting?
I'm assuming this is my last meeting.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Wow. Wait, hold on. It cut out. I can't hear you anymore. I can't hear anyone. Sorry. I have no idea what you said, Randy.
I can't hear you. I have a selective hearing problem too.
So Joanne will be starting on June 1st. I will be around as much as needed to help with a transfer, but I am assuming that this is my last meeting as of now.
Thank you so much, Randy, for your help over the past number of months. It was a difficult and also really fun, time for the commission and the department. So I really appreciate your leadership, and it's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. You know, as I said to Joanne when we talked on the phone the other day, you know, she's going to do amazing things, because when I came, the programs were fine. And under my leadership, they were all canceled. And Joanne had to bring them all back. So I think it was all me that did it. So Joanne's going to do amazing. She's going to have all kinds of programs that I just had to get rid of.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay. Any other commissioner reports?
I want to share some experience in March and April. Because I took my kids for a walk in neighborhood and in the park every day after their school closed. And I noticed every several days, there's some change in Cupertino parks. At first, there's some notice, some paper print notice said, don't use the playground. Be cautious. And after several days, it changed to some yellow tape. So all the play structure was blocked. And after several days, even on the bench, you can see some notice that this bench is not cleaned, so be careful to use it. Yeah, I can see even if the park closed, but our city staff are still busy. And thank you for the contribution. Thank you for your help to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner reports?
No, thank you, Interim Director Schwartz. It's been great working with you. I welcome our new director. Look forward to moving forward and getting our programs back.
Again, thank you. And if there's no other commissioner reports, again, I'll take my opportunity to really sincerely thank you, Dr. Andy. We learned a lot, and you coached us, especially questions, and whenever we violate Brown Acts, and I'm ready to say that, yes, I did some other areas, and you just say that, stop, that's a Brown Act violation. It doesn't matter if it's in person or because I just wanted to make sure that experience speaks, and experience comes out with the boldness to say that, okay, this is not right, and this is for the policies and what we need to do. And really, I learned a lot, even though it could be a short term. Whatever you did, absolutely we enjoyed, and we never hesitated to come back and we felt that, okay, you are a figure where you come back and tell us what the right thing to do and put us on a guardrail. I sincerely appreciate it. I mean it. And I learned a lot from you, and some of the things I'm trying to use it at work too, what I'm learning. So literally, so sincerely thank you for all your help. And
Thank you very much.
yeah, don't be a stranger, please. You can still call
Thank
in an attendee, and you can still call us and thank us every time. And we can say, hey, the program's what you canceled on me, is it really running or not? Please call, dial in, and at least we want to hear your voice occasionally, at least, please. So come out in the Zoom and talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is my first meeting on the Zoom too, so thanks for our staff. And I know all the people who over helped on the back end right now, Robert, Brandon, and others, amazing. And they made it actually that smooth. And sometimes I like it too, partly because I see everyone on the screen. I like to see it whenever raise hands directly or other things. It's fantastic. So thank you for all the staff for supporting it. And I'm sure we scared enough Joanne and say, oh my God, she may be thinking, this is how the meeting goes, this is how people are, they're going to drill down each one of the items, how I am going to manage it. So Joanne, I just want to tell you, not to scare you, but people are so passionate about it, that we wanted to serve the community, that's why we go deep into it. So you get the feel on, this is what it is, but we will make sure that we treat you really nicely like we treated Randy, and we'll make sure that we give you the complete support. So welcome aboard again. I really am going to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So with that, thank you so much for all the staff. I think Christine and Tony for staying so late, and all the commissioners. I really appreciate it. So let's adjourn the meeting. It's 10:33. We are adjourning the meeting. Thank you for the community members as for watching. Thank you.